Hello, everybody. Welcome to Simple Songwriting episode 11. We are talking about Afterlife by Avenged Sevenfold. I think it's pretty fair to say this is one of both Aubrey and I, one of our favorite songs ever, period.
End
And
of discussion.
End of discussion. That's it. This song's amazing. Just go listen to it. And that's that. We're gonna talk about this. There's so much to talk about on this song. I'm really excited. I'm genuinely excited to talk about this.
I was gonna say I feel like it's been a while since we've done a song that we liked. Like we like Queen and We Will Rock You, but I don't think we've done a song in a minute that we're love, you know?
Right. I feel that way too. I mean, we did, it's like we did the Fuel by Eminem, but that song's only been out for like 3 weeks, and it's a good song. It's a really, really great song, but it's not like Afterlife, Like,
Yeah.
yeah, this song is.
There could be some nostalgia there for us too. For me, there definitely is.
I think that there's definitely nostalgia, but the song it holds up because it's a great song. There's so many good things about this song to talk about. And you know what's funny about this song in particular? I feel like every time it'll come on and I'll hear it and listen to it and enjoy it, but I feel like every time I sit down and really focus in on it, I always find new things. I always find some little thing that I had never heard before. Literally, while I was doing this episode like 10 minutes ago, while I was making my notes, I found something. I'm excited to tell you about it. I don't know if you've ever noticed it. But yeah, I'll point it out when we get there in the song, because there's just something new that I found and I'm like, holy shit. Like there's just so many, and it's a good thing. It's a intentional thing that they did. But yeah, but the truth is that there's so many things in this song that are just so well done. It's nuts. And so even though there is absolutely nostalgia, like undoubtedly there's some nostalgia here for us, it's still an objectively great song. So I can't wait to talk about it. I'm so excited. Yeah.
Same.
Cool. Let's see. Okay, well, let's before we jump into that, and we'll probably talk a little bit about Avenged Sevenfold in general. But let's talk about what have you been listening to? You've been listening to anything new this week?
Yeah. So, I don't think anything new, like new releases. I did go. You and I talked about Disturbed earlier this week, and I was like, man, I haven't listened to Disturbed in a minute.
Yeah.
So I hopped on. I didn't not know album to album, just like some some of the bangers.
Yeah.
Um, I listened to the Back from the Dead album by Hailstorm.
Interesting.
Which I've listened to when it came out. Um, I don't know when it came out. It came out in 2021, so that's their most recent album.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't love it, but just didn't know what I wanted to listen to, and it was there. I was like, oh, I'll give it a listen again. And then I was like, oh man, I slept on this album. I feel like when it first came out.
What's the album called?
Back from the Dead.
Back from the Dead. I think I remember that coming
Yeah,
out. I was never
yeah.
huge into
So
Hailstorm, but okay.
yeah, I enjoy them. Um,
Mhm.
oh, I think you and I saw them. I think you were at that show where we saw them
Yeah.
live many,
There-
many, many moons ago.
yeah, it was Uproar Fest. It was when
Um,
it was
yeah,
Stone
Avenged
Sour,
Sevenfold, and
Hailstorm,
yeah.
Avenged Sevenfold, Disturbed. Yeah.
Bailey's a big Hailstorm fan, and they are freaking phenomenal live. Like, even if I didn't like them, I would go to see them live because they're that good live, in my opinion.
I would totally agree with you.
Um,
I'm not a big fan of their records, but I thought that they put on an awesome live performance. I really did enjoy their live show.
but that's really pretty much it. It's been kind of I feel like it's been a long week to the point where instead of driving, I just drove home in silence.
Yeah.
after like work and stuff.
I
So wasn't really trying to listen to a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, I feel you there.
Um,
Yeah, it's been a long week. Um,
yeah,
cool.
but I did throw in some post-human next gen by Bring Me the Horizon again, as well as the album before, which is name is slipping my mind. Hold on, give me a second.
Is it the
Post-human survival horror. Yeah. Um, but that's pretty much it. Nothing new, just some throwback stuff. But yeah, what about you?
I I actually so I was at the gym and it's funny, I just have never really worn AirPods or headphones to the gym. I genuinely will just go to the gym and just free ball it, like just with my thoughts and just do that. But we found a pair of AirPods that Shelby had from like a few like she used to wear. And so I brought those, and so I actually skipped around through some Avenged Sevenfold songs, and I picked a few that I haven't like heard in a while. I listened to Welcome to the Family. I like went album by album. So let's see. I did Welcome to the Family. Uh, Hold on. This Means War. Nobody. And then what was the last one? There was one more. Goddamn. Off of the stage. And so it was really nice hearing
Weird.
those songs and like I just because it's funny because I've listened to Avenged Sevenfold so much that I don't really listen to them anymore as much as I used to.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that was fun. But I also listened to oh my god, sneeze. Excuse me. Oh, I also listened to Post Malone's newest country song. I think he's released 3 at this point. They are all
Mhm.
just absolutely terrible. Just
I'm not gonna
unbearable.
lie, I'm excited for that album. I'm gonna be honest.
But have you listened to the songs?
I haven't. I wanna listen to it all in one go. I've heard the 1 or the 2 that I think we discussed, but I'm gonna listen to the whole thing. I'm I don't wanna say I'm excited. Like,
Here
I'm not like, not like Avenged Sevenfold excited, but, like, I'm curious to see how this turns out.
I'm excited to listen to it mainly because I don't think it's gonna be anything special. Here's the biggest thing is that I feel like it's such a wasted opportunity. I feel like he could have done some really awesome, unique country music, like put his spin on it. And instead he's just chosen to make some super generic. I made a whole that in fact there's a to the listener out there, there's a little short video that I posted on our channel talking about the state of modern country music. It's like 7 minutes long. Go check it out if you want my thoughts on that. But yeah, I think that he's just taken a really generic route. Um, when I always felt like he would make a good country artist because of his unique style of singing and songwriting. And instead, he's just gotten, I mean, every song on the album has a feature other than like two, I think. He's got like 18 features. So I don't know. But whatever. I wasn't very impressed by the latest song. It was called like I've Got a Guy for That or something. What else
Mhm.
did I listen to? Katy Perry's new song, Lifetimes. It is not as bad as Woman's World, but it's just pretty bland, just a pretty bland song. So I think that was about it. I think that's the only new stuff I checked out. So yeah. All right, Aubrey,
Well,
are you ready?
I did also listen to some Steely Dan. I forgot to mention that. Worth mentioning, some Steely Dan.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, Steely Dan's cool.
Yeah, but
Very, very
okay,
cool.
yes, let's the moment we've all been waiting for.
Ooh. All right, so Avenged Sevenfold. Let's talk about this band. Um, how did you first find Avenged Sevenfold?
I will never forget this moment. Um, this song actually in particular, um, was the first Avenged Sevenfold song I had heard,
This song?
and Ivan kind of yeah, yeah.
Same actually.
Um, Ivan was literally talking to me about them, like, a week or 2 before I heard the song,
Mhm.
um, and I just, like, never really got a chance to, like, check them out or anything, but he was talking more about, like, their older stuff, like the Waking the Fallen and Sound of the Seventh Trumpet.
Yeah.
and I was driving home from soccer practice, and well, I was not driving home. Let me rephrase that. I was being driven home. I was riding home from soccer practice.
Yeah.
Um, and Project 961, the radio station at the time that
Oh
was like,
yeah.
our rock and roll Project 961,
Check
you know.
961.
Um, like I like was changing, flipping through the radio stations, and I was in the middle of this song, and it was like just before the solo happened. And
Yeah.
at the time, I was playing drums. I was like mid drum lessons, like peak of my life was drums at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And this guitar solo happened, and I literally was just like, "What the heck just happened?" I called the radio station and was like, "What frickin' song is this?" And they're like, "Oh,
Wait.
this is Afterlife by Avenged Sevenfold." And I was like, this is the song that made me pick up a guitar, thinking that I would one day be able to do what Sinister Gates does in this song.
Yeah.
And 16, 17 years later, I still can't do it.
Well,
But this is the song that made me pick up a guitar.
yeah. So, not to toot my own horn, but I can do it. Yeah. This song was the one. I was actually with Andrew, and I remember I had been playing guitar for about a year at this point, and I had really just been into like Guns N' Roses and Van Halen and stuff like that. And maybe not a year, maybe like 6 or 7 months. But I remember we were just joking around. Why we were like ironically or like funnily watching Headbangers Ball, like making fun of them, like, oh, hate breeder, I hate everything. Like we were just joking around, like, what were we, seventh, eighth grade, something like that. So we were just being idiots. But then this was at the time, I think, when they released the Live in the LBC DVD. And I think I had heard Beast and the Harlot on Guitar Hero 2, but that was a cover. Like they didn't have the actual recordings on Guitar Hero 2. So it wasn't the actual song, you know? So you didn't get like the full effect. So,
Yeah.
but I was familiar with Avenged Sevenfold, but I didn't really like, I hadn't dove too deep into them. I didn't think about them very much. Anyway, because Avenged Sevenfold had just come out with the Live in the LBC DVD, they were showing clips. They were like promoting it on Headbangers Ball during the commercial break. So like when they went on commercial break, they were like, "And here's a clip from Live in the LBC," and it was like I'll never forget it either because it was like a slap to my face because it was like a 10 to 15 second clip. I don't even remember what song it was. I think it might have been Second Heartbeat of Sinister Gates and Zach EV doing the dual guitar thing with their harmony guitars, and like just a 10-second clip of that, and it was like, and here's a clip from Afterlife, and it played the verse like with the verse riff and then it was like commercial time, and I literally remember Andrew and I sitting there like, what was that? Like who is that? Like the dual guitar thing was the coolest thing I had ever seen in my life. And then the song just sounded nuts. Like that verse riff to this day, I think is one of the best verse riffs ever. And so we like ran upstairs and found the music video on YouTube and we're playing it. And I was like, yo, and that's when I heard the guitar solo. And I was like, what is this? Like, I had never heard a guitar played like that. It was the most nuts thing. It genuinely changed my life. Um, and then like the cherry on top was that we were looking at the tabs and we were like, yo, what is this section here? Because I had a guitar there and I was trying to play the stuff on the tabs and I immediately just went to the solo. But the solo has two parts, and the first part is not in the music video. So I was so confused because I was trying to play the tab, but the notes weren't lining up at all. And I was like, what? Like, is there something that we're not hearing? And so then we found out, like, we found it, and it's like, oh my God, that awesome song that we just heard, like we watched the music video for? the actual song on iTunes has like a minute more, which makes it even better. And it's
Like,
like,
but wait, there's more.
literally, wait, there's more. And it was just, I mean, that night it was mind boggling how like that night changed my whole life. I was like obsessed with Avenged Sevenfold after that. And like, yeah, I think up to that point I had just been learning, like I said, like Guns N' Roses, Van Halen, maybe a little bit of Metallica or Iron Maiden, stuff like that. But it then became my mission to learn like everything Avenged Sevenfold. And I think at one point I knew I could probably play through just about every song on City of Evil and the self-titled album, the White Album. I went crazy. I made it like my New Year's resolution to be able to play the Afterlife solo. And I could. I still can
I
to this
do
day.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was obsessed with the Afterlife solo. But the thing is back then there weren't as many like YouTube wasn't quite as popular because this would have been what, like 2008,
That and
2009.
tabs kind of sucked.
Yeah, so
Some of them.
the tabs sucked. It was tough to get like reliable tabs, and YouTube just wasn't as reliable. So I remember for me it was like it was a journey trying to figure out how to play this solo. Because it's just so complicated. There's so many notes. It's just an absolutely insane solo, and just sitting there trying to feel like what are they doing or how is he getting it to sound like that? There's specifically a section in the solo where it sounds like laser beams, and it's like how is he making the guitar sound like that? And I mean I was going crazy. I was going on Ultimate Guitar forums, looking up gear, going to obscure tab websites to try to find something. I bought the tab book, even the tab book didn't have it right. I mean, it took a long time. It probably took like 6 months to a year. I had to get better as a guitarist as well to even be able to realize what he was doing and how to play it. Um, but yeah, this song blew my mind. Still does. It's still just amazing how well made this song is. But yeah, that was my introduction to Avenged Sevenfold. And yeah, I can say that I can play the solo still to this day. Every now and then I'll every now and then because I play very different things now. Like I play kind of Polyphia style stuff now, but every now and then I'm like, can I still play that Afterlife solo? And I'll knock it out, I'll jam it out, and then it's like, yeah, okay, still got it. If there's ever
Still got it.
there's been a few points where like I've been sloppy on it, and then I get mad, and I'm like, okay, I have to sit down and practice the Afterlife solo for like an hour, you know. But yeah, it is a crazy song though. Just nuts. Um, Yeah, so let's talk about why we picked this song a little bit because there's so many great Avenged Sevenfold songs, period. But and we will very likely cover many, many Avenged Sevenfold songs. But this song, I feel like so one of the reasons we were going back and forth on which one to pick, but this song in particular, it has if you were to think about like the Avenged Sevenfold formula or like all of the things that Avenged Sevenfold does that you associate with their sound, this song is kind of it. But one of the funny things about Avenged Sevenfold is that they don't really have like a formula to their songwriting. You know, every song is very unique. Like I don't think you could compare this song with even the other songs on this album, like A Little Piece of Heaven, Dear God, Brompton Cocktail, they're just all so different. But this song does
Yeah.
seem to have that quality of like kind of being right in the middle.
I think so. I feel like um I agree with pretty much everything you're saying. Also, um I don't know that I would do this now, but if you had asked me pre-stay, well, I don't know actually. I guess the question I want to ask of myself, if I was like given one song a chance to try and get somebody hooked on Avenged Sevenfold, what song would I pick? And for years, it was this song.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, "Oh, you think you're gonna oh, if you had to show somebody one song to make them fall in love with Avenged Sevenfold, what would it be? Boom, it would be this one, like, no questions about it." I don't know, I'd have to think about it if I feel that same way now. I
See,
don't think it's a bad place to start.
so there's an interesting thing about Avenged Sevenfold and like being an Avenged Sevenfold fan. I think that it's like you have to want to be challenged a little bit musically, you know? Like I find that the people who don't like Avenged Sevenfold, they typically like their box. They like their box of music. And
Yeah.
you know, whereas I feel like when you're an Avenged Sevenfold fan, you actually want to, you like for example, Life is But a Dream came out last year. I wanted them to go nuts. I wanted them to do things that I didn't expect and that I thought were weird and different because that's one of the things that I appreciate about not just them as artists, but artists in general. I like it when artists try new things. And Avenged Sevenfold has always done that. And over the course of their career, they've stepped into that role as almost like these mad scientists in the rock world. They've stepped into that more, you know?
Yeah, I think, uh, too, I think worth noting, like, I think this song in particular is, like, if I played this song for, like, my mom or my dad, they'd be like, "I love this song," but then if I played, like, something else from, like, Waking the Fallen or Sound of the Seventh Trumpet, they'd be like, "What the heck is this?" I'm like, "It's the same band. You said you love this band. Yet
Yeah.
you were making the statement based off of one song, which is a foolish mistake, but here we are."
Yeah, well, and that one of the things that I always like said to people is like, if you don't like Avenged Sevenfold, you just haven't heard the right song. They have a song for
I
everybody.
definitely I was gonna say, I definitely think there's a song and or an album for everybody.
Yeah, like there has to be something like I just find it I can't imagine there being somebody who doesn't like anything by Avenged Sevenfold, any album, any song, and that person actually being like a fan of rock music or really even music in general. Like if you don't like
Oh,
Afterlife, maybe you like Chapter 4. If that's way too heavy for you, maybe you'll like Warmness on the Soul. If that's too corny or campy for you, maybe you'll like something closer to like We Love You, which is super progressive and weird. Or if you want something poppier, you've got like Ordinary or Hail to the King. If you want long epic songs, you get Exist and Save Me. Like there's just something somewhere for everybody. And if you're a fan and you like that and you want to you enjoy different styles and different genres and you like watching them like on their journey, then it's all great and it's very rewarding being a fan, you know? Um so yeah, I've always been I don't it's always been interesting hearing people's perspectives on Avenged Sevenfold. So, I'll talk to some people and they're just like, "Oh, like I couldn't get past the whiny vocal tone on City of Evil." And it's like, bro, that was 20 years ago. They've released like six more albums, like five more albums. Like, what about Nightmare? Buried Alive. Did you,
yeah,
and but I know for me personally, I love the whiny vocal tone on City of Evil, that yeah, yeah, that nasally thing that he does. I think it's super cool.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think with if you were to say like what's the one song that like here's the song if you don't like this song or if I wanted to get you into Avenged Sevenfold, this is the song, it would be Afterlife. Afterlife has the full package. It's got the guitar harmonies, it's got the great storytelling, the awesome very kind of emotional vocal performance from M Shadows. It's got the epicness with the strings, the emotion, but it's also got heaviness in the pre-choruses, and then a shredding solo. There's just so many elements to this song um, that I think make it like just great overall. And yeah, so I would agree with you. If there was one song that I could say, like, look, if you want to get into Avenged Sevenfold, or you want to know if you would like Avenged Sevenfold, check this song out. If this song interests you, then listen to more of their stuff. Like, it would be this song.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
so yeah, I mean it's cool. So that's why we picked this one. And I think also talking about this will, you know, I kind of just said this, but there are these elements of Avenged Sevenfold songwriting that have changed over time. Like for example, they don't really write in guitar harmonies anymore. They don't do a lot of those. Uh but it was like a big staple of their sound for many, many years. And so it's like this song has these elements of Avenged Sevenfold songwriting, which we can then talk about on later songs how they flip it. Because I think I mentioned earlier, like this song kind of is the it feels weird to say this is like a very this song is very much the Avenged Sevenfold formula because they don't really have a formula, but what am I trying to say? It's like they flip the formula. Like here's all of the things that they do, and then they just play with that and flip it in later songs and albums and stuff. So anyway, cool. Did you have anything, any other precursor words to say about it before we dive in? Because I think we'll have
No,
plenty to talk about once we start talking about
I was
it.
gonna say, yeah, I think we hit all the big, the big things, and everything else we can just discuss
Yeah.
as we go through it.
Yeah. So let's get into it then. Man, I'm excited. All right. So we start off with the string intro. Here, let me actually let me move this here. All right, so we've got our string intro starting now. So let's just start there. Um, man, so I, orchestral intros like this can very quickly become corny, or they make them too long, or it's just a, you know, do you know what I mean? Like it can quickly get like,
So,
yeah,
uh, surely you've heard the alternate version of the song, right?
yes,
Do you know? So, like, I was gonna bring this up later, but since we're talking about orchestra stuff, um, there is an alternate version of the song, and basically the only difference is the amount of strings.
yeah. Don't
And
they
I was
put
listening to them.
sorry, don't they put
There's a
strings like in different sections and take strings out of other sections?
but overall, there's a lot more strings like throughout the whole thing, like throughout the chorus and everything. Um,
Yeah,
and I've never like I've paid attention, but I never really like fine tooth combed it before, like I did for this episode.
yeah,
I prefer than this version way better, and it's because they use strings so much. In the alternate version, it just doesn't allow like the song to breathe as much, in my opinion.
exactly. And so that's actually kind of the point I wanted to make is that you have to be very careful with strings and orchestral elements because they can kind of become meaningless after a while. Like there's something very impactful about hearing a cello or a violin. They're just very like it's kind of like a piano, right? Like it's a very human instrument and it's something that resonates with us as humans. But if you just throw them over everything, they do lose their impact on, especially on like a rock song. You know, it can take away from the rock part of the rock song. You know, uh, this intro specifically, I've always loved it because I feel like they got the perfect length of time down. Where let me frame it like this: when you have a musical intro, if you're hearing the song for the first time, you might not know what the song is about. And you can have all this music in the beginning, but if you don't know what the song's about yet, it can very quickly become one of those things that's like, okay, where are we going? You know? Not to say that you can't have a great long musical intro. There are plenty of awesome songs that do have those, and some of my favorites do. But I just want to I think it's I want to compliment them holding back on doing too much with this intro and just having these strings play. I think they play for like 17 seconds, which in the grand scheme of things is not that long, you know? And it's very like they didn't overdo it either. So actually one of the points I wanted to make is that it's actually panned so you can hear, I think it's the cellos, in the right speaker, or panned slightly to the right, and then the violins panned slightly to the left. And it's like a little call and response thing, like boom, na na, boom, na na, boom. So yeah, let's listen to that again, and you can hear the panning. So yeah, um, but yeah, I think they did a good job here of like it's building the tension and making you think like, okay, where are we going? Like, where's this going? What's happening in this song? Um, but they don't waste too much time actually getting into the song because they have a lot of stuff to cover in this song. They've got a story to tell, you know?
Yeah.
And I also think that it gives them the ability to use the strings later on in the song as well. And so let me kind of talk about this for just a second. When like songs will have like musical themes. The most basic version of that is like the vocal melody. We've talked about this on many other songs where you have like the vocal melody at the beginning of the song for the chorus melody at the beginning of the song, so that way you remember it later on. But you can actually do that with other things besides just the melody. You can do it with just having the strings. Like one of the things that drives me nuts when I listen to some metal songs is when they have strings or piano at the beginning and then they don't bring them back for the rest of the song. It's like, well, what was the point of having it at the beginning then? It's not actually an element of the rest of the song. Uh, but in this song, it's saying like, yeah, this is going to be whatever you want to call it, that emotion that strings have, that ethereal or elegant. Like this song is going to have a degree of elegance to it. Let's just use that word. And they deliver on that by having some really beautiful string sections all throughout the song, but like you said, used sparingly in important moments. So yeah, uh, compliments to them. I guess my big point is they don't overdo it at the beginning. They can get into the song pretty quickly and efficiently, but they also like deliver on having the strings throughout the song. So it's not just like a random string intro, you know? So yeah, let's keep going. Then we have this really nice build up. The drum cymbals coming in. I'm gonna pause it there. So yeah, that's kind of what I mean, where it's like we build the tension with the strings, but then we get to slam into like this is a rock song, this is a heavy song, and so we get to jump in with it. All right, let's keep listening to this guitar intro. Unless you've got anything else on the strings at the beginning.
Nope.
Cool. We're getting copyright strike. All right, cool. Just wanted to play the whole thing. This video just got demonetized, but that's okay because we're trying to get copyright stricken by Avenged Sevenfold so we can meet them in court. All right. Those harmonies, man. That intro. What do you think of it?
Um, I mean, so I think from what I can recall, from all those many years ago, I don't think there was really any band at the time doing what they were doing, um, from a guitar perspective.
No.
Um, uh, Not even just with the harmonies. I mean, in a lot of different ways. But I mean, I think it freaking slaps. I mean, even after all these years and having heard the song thousands of times,
Right.
like it's still I still
Slaps.
get like pumped up about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, a lot of bands at the time were doing guitar harmonies, but Avenged Sevenfold always approached them differently. Um, First off, they did, I'm not going to get into the theory of it, but they did different types of harmonies. Um, like the 5 second explanation for music nerds is that they would harmonize a third up and then lower the harmony down an octave so that the melody was still the higher pitched harmony. That's all I'll say about that. But it was that's a very like orchestral thing to do in an orchestral way to like compose your harmonies. Uh, Second off, they treated the guitars in a much more musical and melodic way than I think a lot of other bands did. I think for many bands, when they would do these types of harmony sections and these types of guitar layers, it was they were either being technically proficient, like doing things that were technically impressive, uh, which there were tons of bands that were skilled, but it lacked like melodic quality, or they were using it almost as like background stuff. Like I think about Atreyu and some of their harmonies where they're almost just there, but it's not really anything. Like it's not technically impressive and it's not even a melody. They're just layering them in there just to have extra layers, like harmonic layers on the song. But Avenged Sevenfold treated their guitars like, melodic instruments that were establishing the music, like very musical instruments, even when they were doing technically impressive things. Like, for example, like Backcountry, the harmonies in Backcountry, it's very musical. Like like it's a very musical section, even though it sounds, it's very impressive. You know which part I'm talking about, right? In Backcountry.
Oh yeah.
Here, let me, for the listener who hasn't heard it, let's play it real quick. Like that little section right there. I mean, first off, it's just epic. But second off, it has musical quality to it. It's actually like it's a nice little melody. It's a nice how to say, like, it's creative, it's interesting to listen to, it's engaging. It doesn't sound like they're just trying to show off, you know? So that was something that Avenged Sevenfold was always good about, is like, why are we putting these harmonies here? Is it having an effect? Like, is it here for a reason? And I think that's actually one of the reasons why they've moved away from the harmonies to a degree, because they've just found other ways to be musical. Like they've done the harmonies so much that maybe they feel like they don't need to do them anymore, or that they want to find other ways to establish melodies in a song. You know? But here, one second. But yeah, in this section in particular, it's a great little melody. So it starts off slower. It starts off with this na na na. Oh, okay, let's get it. The song's actually really long too. So it's like just that right there. It's not hard to play, They can do way more. But that over the punk beat just has so much energy, and it's such a unique mix as well. Actually, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. One of the things that Avenged Sevenfold did that actually got them a lot of flack from both punk and metal was that they would combine things like that. So that's actually a punk drum beat, that and with the chords playing over it, and then so they've got like a punk sound, but then they'll throw like Iron Maiden metal harmonies over it. And at the time, the metal heads and the punk heads didn't like they didn't like it. Neither of them liked it, but people like you and me loved it.
Yeah.
So then we get into then it starts to pick up. So we're still building. Like we jump in, it's hype. We're getting excited. We're getting pumped up, and they use the harmonies to keep building that. With this little faster. Just get really high on the street, and that drum fill there kind of caps it all off. Just continuously building the tension, and then they do that hard stop into the guitar riff. So yeah, I mean, just in terms of song dynamics, it's great. You know, we're 35 seconds into the song, but the song is, you know, almost 6 minutes. So it's a much bigger, more epic song than most of the stuff we've covered in the past, and most songs in general. So they can have a little more time at the beginning. But yeah, they build the song up with the string intro, then we slam into this kind of punk beat harmony thing that just goes crazy and gets you amped and excited, and then we do a heavy drop, like just a full stop into this verse riff, and we're going to drop into the verse here in a second, but yeah, that's kind of my musical analysis of all of that. Do you have anything else on that intro?
It still slaps.
It still slaps. You know, so maybe I will talk about one other thing here. And this is something that I've really thought about it a lot in recent years, is that like good shit is just good, you know? And it's sometimes hard to explain why. It's just good. And so I find that a lot of artists today try to like do gimmicky things, try to you know, like with these breakdowns and the way that people do breakdowns now, where they almost just don't even sound human anymore. You can tell that they just chopped up the guitar riffs and the guitar break, you know, the tracks in the studio,
Hmm.
and it's cool. But I look at something like this and I'm like, the reality is that the composition is just good. There's no gimmick here. There's nothing crazy happening. This is just a really great melody played really well by great musicians. It's just good, and that juxtaposition of the you know, the punk drum beats with the, you know, heavy strumming chords in the background over these very like composed, harmonized guitar harmony or guitar parts. It's just interesting to listen to. It's enjoyable to listen to, you know, and so yeah. But let's get into this verse because I think this verse is where the song really like pops the fuck off. Um,
Like walking into a dream, someone like what you've seen. So
yeah, man, that fucking verse, dude, that is one of the best riffs ever. That is one of my favorite riffs of all time for
So
so
it's
many
really funny.
reasons.
I wanted to talk about the riff because I feel like it's such a I feel like that's a riff, and I know the story behind it because you know, they talk about it a lot and how the riff was like it's like it's called the Wheatley riff,
Yeah, the
and I'm like,
meadly,
who the
meadly,
heck how
meadly.
uh, yeah, this is what happens when a drummer writes a guitar riff, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Apparently, he like sang it for them. He was singing it for Sinister Gates. Um, like the story is he was telling him, he was like, the guitar riff goes something like this. It goes bum 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 bum, like wheedly wheedly bum 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 wheedly wheedly bum bum bum.
Yeah,
And it's like,
and I feel like it's a riff that on paper should not have been successful, and it's kind of like it's not hard to play, but it's awkward.
there is nothing about this verse that should have been successful. This verse is ridiculous. And I don't mean like, it is ridiculously impressive. It is also ridiculous in the literal sense that this is just wacky. Like, there are so many weird things happening in this verse. I it's just ridiculous. Yeah, this riff is, it's not crazy hard to play, but it is really awkward. Uh so here's what's going on with this riff. Let's talk about it. It is a combination of, I want to say it's like 16th notes or 32nd notes, and then it's mixed with like a whole note triplet or like a half note triplet, that dun dun dun. So it's like da 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 da, because the repeated section it's 4 notes. So it's da 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 bum 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 da 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 bum 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 da 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 bum bum bum. And something about that. So here, hold on, let's just listen. Yeah. It's just in it,
Like,
like
if you just heard that by itself and had nothing around it, you'd be like, I could not, I wouldn't. How do you turn that into a song? You know, like
it,
that's my thought process.
that's exactly how I feel. Like it doesn't to me, it's never even really felt like a riff, because it's like, I think riff, you think like Inner Sandman or Sad But True. That's like what even is it, you know? Like like what? And so okay, so let's talk about a little bit of the theory happening here, because it's really interesting. So they've got, I wish there was a way that I could, I'll portray it when we get in, like with the actual verse. But what's happening here is that the timing of that riff and the way it works out, like on a 4, like across 4 measures, makes it very inconsistent. So it doesn't start on the same place when it repeats. So here, let me see if I can portray it. Like listen to the drum beat, the do, do, and try to listen to when the dun 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 dun, like listen to when that starts.
Like walking into a dream, someone like what you've seen.
So it's like, okay, let me explain it like this. The full riff is dun 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 bam 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 dun 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 bam bam bam. So they can repeat the riff 2 times, and then they throw in the half note triplet, which is the dun dun dun. So what that means is that the riff takes up 3 beats. So imagine you've got 8 beats total, 3 beats, and then 3 beats, and then the half note triplet takes up 2 beats. The dun dun dun. That, even though it's 3 notes, because it's a half note triplet, it takes up those 3 beats. So it's this weird like juxtaposition over, because the drums are just 4 on the floor. It's just do ba, do ba, right? But the riff is this 3 beat section, and then to make it even weirder, the last 2 beats they play 3 notes in a triplet. It's just ridiculous. Like, and if you're confused, if you don't know music theory and you're sitting there going like, I don't understand what he's saying, I'm a musician and I barely understand it. I don't understand how this riff works. It shouldn't work.
I was gonna say, it's me. Hi, I'm the one. It's me.
I'm the problem. Like, I get it. Like, it's like, okay, it just shouldn't work. There's no reason why this riff should work. Like
walking into a dream, someone like what you've seen.
dun, 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 dun. It's but yet with that beat and with the way it flows, it just sounds so, like, pun intended, sinister. Like it just sounds so like grimy and like in your face. I've never heard a riff like this. I honestly, I don't even know if I've heard a riff like this since this song. It's that unique. And then to cap it off, the verse melody on the vocals is just, it's stupid. It's a stupid melody. And it was come up. Did you listen to I don't know if you listened to the podcast.
Oh yeah.
It was a joke. The melody was a joke. They couldn't figure out how to sing over the song because the verse guitar riff is so wacky and ridiculous. They couldn't figure out how to sing over it. So for the listener, this is the story. They went up to their log cabin that I think M Shadows' dad owns or something. And it was just the 5 of them chilling, working on this album. And they just were driving themselves nuts trying to figure out this song in particular. and they couldn't figure out how to sing over this verse. And it's like, well, yeah, because the verse melody is fucking ridiculous. Or the verse guitar riff is ridiculous. And so then the Rev apparently was just like laying down on the couch, and he was just like, he just started saying random dumb crap. And he was like, get me out of this house, but let it all burn down, something like that, right? Because they were just sick of being in that log cabin.
Yeah, it was something along those lines.
Maybe it was fire. It's like I'm so sick of this fire, And then they were like, wait, sing that over this verse. And that's how you get, which again, it shouldn't work. It shouldn't work. It's so na 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 na, cause we've been waiting for you. It's a ridiculous melody over a ridiculous guitar riff, and yet it sounds amazing. Like somehow it works. I honestly, I can't explain it. I don't even think Avenged Sevenfold can explain it. It's just one of those things. But yeah, because if you think about like the verse, the vocal melody over the guitar, I don't think even that works. Hold on,
Like walking into a dream, someone like what you've seen, so whichever it seems, 'cause we've been waiting for you.
yeah, like none of it lines up. None of it. It's wacky, man. It's wacky. So yeah, man. I remember, for those of you who don't know, actually, if you're listening and you're interested in the song, you should go check out the Making of Afterlife video on YouTube. I think, I can speak for Aubrey as well when I say we like grew up obsessed with those videos. Yeah, it was so awesome being able to see like Avenged Sevenfold in the studio and have stuff like that. I feel like,
Yeah. It's also, I think, worth listening to their Tracks podcast.
yeah, if you can get past bees.
I like bees.
I'm iffy on bees, but the content's good. I think the Afterlife episode was one of the better episodes. Yeah, because it's just always interesting hearing them talk. They're very good artists, and the way that they talk about their songs is very informational and educational. It doesn't feel like you're wasting your time or that they're just filibustering for an interview or something, So, but yeah, anyway, the verse riff, the whole verse in general is just crazy. That riff, I obsessed over it. I love that riff. I've played this song live. I've played this song with my band live. It's so much fun. It's just a great song. One of my favorite clips from the making of this song is when Sinister Gates is trying to play that riff in the studio, and the producer is like, "Nope, nope, you don't got it." And finally, he's just like, one final little tidbit on this verse, or on the music of this verse, because we got to talk about the lyrics a little bit, is if the verse riff was, as if it wasn't crazy enough, there's a harmony. They actually harmonized the verse riff. You can hear it in the center of the mix. I think it's just an octave harmony. Yeah, so it just sounds super meaty, super full. Yeah, it's great. But let's talk about some of these lyrics for a second. I think so I'm a musical guy. I'm a music person. I listen to the music first. It's what I like obsess over. But I do like lyrics. I do love good lyrics. I think these are just brilliant lyrics. These lyrics are like a work of art to me. What do you think about these lyrics? What do you think when you first heard the song and like of the story and the theme and stuff?
Um, so I'm definitely in the same boat as you as a musical guy first, and there are songs that I've listened to for years and like don't know all the words to unless I like really try and pay attention
Yeah,
to them.
same.
Um, I think that I think they're good creative. Um, they're definitely they don't like it's hard because I'm thinking of their entire catalog,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm comparing it to everything they've released. I don't know that like I want to say the song. I don't want to say it feels gimmicky in a sense, but in a sense, I feel like it. To me, there are parts of the song that are gimmicky. Um, but I
Interesting.
think it has to do with the guitar riff is and how they had to sing over it. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um,
By gimmick,
because like like
what do you mean by gimmicky? I'm
I don't maybe
interested.
gimmicky is not the word, but like I think compared to some of the other stories they've told throughout their career, like this is not their best from a lyric perspective. But I also think that this is an incredibly hard song to try and sing over. Um,
Interesting.
he's like walking into a dream, and they kind of drag out the
Mm-hmm.
endings of all the words for this part.
Yeah.
Like,
So I will say that is a really weird note. I want to say it's like a B flat or something. I could probably figure it out real quick. Because it is that note. I don't remember where I heard it. Maybe it was like on some random podcast that M Shadows did, but he was talking about how that note's one of the hardest notes to hit because if you hit it the wrong way or if you deliver it wrong, there's just a lot of things that could go wrong with that specific note. Um,
yeah,
I think I get what you're saying though, where it's like it's this section in particular is very weird and the lyrics they kind of have to conform to this weird melody that they've created. Um
yeah, and
I
I think that's what makes it hard, right? Like what else are you gonna put there? Like the world is not your oyster
right.
because of the Weedles, you know?
Exactly. So it's an A note. So that the A note builds tension in the key of D minor. So yeah, that's why
Um,
that's what's happening there is that he's building tension like with each of those lines. Na 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 na. So it's not resolving. Um
yeah,
but yeah, I could see what
I
you're
like it.
saying.
Not bad.
I would definitely agree. I think
Um,
I think as a lyricist, M Shadows has only gotten better. Um I think this song in particular, you know, when you think about like great Avenged Sevenfold songs, like one of the biggest things that Avenged Sevenfold does really well is tell great stories and tell a story in a song. Um, and in fact, that's one of the big topics I want to talk about. Maybe let's not talk about it yet. Maybe let's get to the chorus. But we've covered a few different songs on this show now, and there's like I guess the main point I want to make is that there's so many different things that you can write about in a song. And so you can write about a feeling, like "We Will Rock You." You can write about uh, a vibe. The lyrics don't even have to mean anything. You could just have like a vibe, which was kind of what like "That Boy Is Mine" would be. Or you can tell a story, and it's not like those are the only things you can do, but those are just examples of like how are you going to treat your lyrics and what your vocals do. Um, but yeah, I think this song, it's not trying to be the most grand epic song that Avenged Sevenfold's ever written. I think they wanted this to be a more like, commercially palatable song. Um, which is funny because it's like 6 minutes long. But
Where, well, not when you listen to the radio edit and it cuts out, I think, a minute or so.
yeah,
Where does this fall in like their most streamed songs? Do you know?
I think it's one of the most. So it's got 265 million streams. Uh, Hail to the King has 600 mil. Nightmare has 370 mil. So right now it's looking like it's third. Let me just check a few other songs. What did I say? 265. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it's the most streamed song on the White album.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Little Piece of Heaven has 240. This song is, yeah, this song's something. The only song with more streams off of Nightmare is the song Nightmare. Backcountry has 250 million, so Afterlife is fourth. I don't think any of the. Let's get down to
I figured it'd be up there.
maybe Unholy
Um,
Confessions. Hold on. Nope, Unholy Confessions is 137 mil. So yeah, it looks like it is the fourth most popular.
yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. I didn't think it would be number one.
Yeah. Yep, it is fourth. So, it's funny, like, I do feel like this sounds really corny, but I feel like it's one of those like special songs for Avenged Sevenfold. Um, like it's just one
I
that
agree.
they even acknowledge it. I think they've even mentioned that they're like, it's just kind of wild. Like they've even said it's crazy. Like this song just seems to really resonate with people in a very like different way. It's like I love Critical Acclaim and I love Gunslinger and Brompton Cocktail, right? But like this song is different than those. This song is different. It has a different like nostalgic meaning to a lot of to me and you and a lot of people who are Avenged Sevenfold fans. So, um,
Yeah, I think it's definitely a song that like they have to play live for forever.
yeah, yeah, and it's funny because I think there's a lot of song even on their end. I think there's a lot of songs that they look back on and they don't like that they've written, but I have never heard them say a bad thing about this song. I think they actually are all very proud of this song, and I think they should be. So,
Yeah,
um,
it's not no Beast in the Harlot.
man, I wish they'd play that more. I love Beast and the Harlot. I hate that they
I've
don't.
seen it live.
I think I've seen him play it live too, but Sinister Gates, he's just like, I hate it, dude. You wrote it. Um, cool, but yeah. Okay, so coming back to these lyrics a little bit, I've always I've always liked these lyrics. Obviously, but I think that they, here's the main thing that I want to talk about because I've talked about like songs that do this badly, like Women's World and That Boy Is Mine, where it's like they don't establish or like they waste space with the lyrics, like they just waste lines and they waste time. I feel like this song is very purposeful, and this is to M Shadow's credit because you can tell that he is extremely particular with his lyrics. This song is extremely like purposeful with how the lyrics move and how they go. So even if they sound a little weird over the melody, I think the lyrics on their own are very they tell a story. So it's like walking into a dream, so unlike what you've seen, so unsure, but it seems because we've been waiting for you. Fallen into this place, just giving you a small taste of your afterlife here. So stay, you'll be back here soon anyway. So essentially, it's about a guy who's died and he's in the afterlife. That's what we get from this first verse. And there's a little bit of like this is another thing that he used to do a lot more, and he's always been good about, where he can change his voice and also change the person singing. Um, well, no, actually, would you say that this verse is from the point of view of like, I guess the angels talking to our guy? don't think I've ever thought about it like that.
Does it have to be an angel?
Well, whoever's in heaven or the after, maybe he's
Right.
the afterlife.
Yeah. I mean, I've not necessarily associated with angels, but just like whoever is
Right.
wherever he is, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, basically like, some, I guess I'm gonna say third party, like, you know, you'll be back, you know.
But it's also kind of interesting too, because he's talking to the listener as well. So this is one of the interesting things about music, like stories and music, is that it's different from like a movie or a book, right? Like you're kind of on the journey, like you're not reading about the journey, you're on the journey. Like lyrics, like song lyrics are different than poetry, you know? So you're actually you can set up the afterlife with like things like strings and stuff. Like they can create the world within the song. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. So you can imagine like you as the listener listening to this song for the first time or listening to this song, he's talking to you. He is the narrator or this third party in the afterlife speaking to you, the listener, but also the character in the story of the song. So I think that's kind of interesting. I've never thought about the actual POV of whoever's singing these lyrics, but that's something that M Shadows does think about, and so yeah, cool stuff. Um, I think that's about it for the verse. I don't know if I've got anything else. Oh, I guess we can. Yeah, I read all the lyrics. Yeah, you got anything else on this verse?
I don't know if this technically is like where it falls, but the Johnny Christ bass line,
Oh yeah,
um, you can go ahead and play it really quickly.
yeah, I'm getting it.
Like walking in.
That
I
right?
just wanted to, yeah, I just wanted to point out that I think, oh, sorry, I just tripped on a Roomba.
Dang.
10 out of 10, don't recommend that.
No, don't recommend.
But I just wanted to give credit or props to, I think, obviously, bassists, I think sometimes can be forgotten and or get a lot of flack for being bassists, and I feel like Johnny Christ has done a good job, not only in the song, but on all their albums of, like,
Being
having his
amazing.
moments. Yeah,
Yeah, Johnny.
'cause I think that a lot of bands could survive without a bassist, uh, and it would kind of go largely unnoticed, right?
Definitely. I think Johnny is actually like, okay, this kind of is a bigger conversation. Maybe we won't get into it, but I think Johnny Christ is a criminally underrated bassist, and I actually still feel like Avenged Sevenfold is a criminally underrated band. Um, Even to this day. Uh, that's a whole separate conversation, but yeah, just keeping it in like bass terms, Johnny Christ is incredible. If you actually listen to like even this song, like listen to the bass lines during the chorus. I'll point them out when we get there. They're just awesome. I mean, they're so musical and melodic. Uh, it's like Johnny probably would have made a really great guitarist. He probably could be a really solid guitarist as well. But he's a brilliant bassist. And there's so many songs where he does just unique, interesting things. I think Nightmare especially, like Nightmare. I think what was it? Victim. I think Victim is the song where he just has these amazing like not solos, but like these bass lines during the verses. Um, yeah. No, shout out to Johnny Christ. We're gonna give him his props here because he's great. And in fact, he gets a really nice moment to shine on this first pre-chorus as well, which we're about to get to. Um, but yeah, that it's funny because I was just obsessed with like guitar back in the day when I was first listening to this. That little that was like the first bass line I think I ever consciously heard. Um,
Well, I was gonna say, like, this song, I don't think would have the same punch without Johnny's bass work, because there are moments where, like, it's just him, and it, like,
It slaps.
I don't wanna say it adds to the song, because that's, like, dumb, but yeah, we can say it slaps, because it does slap.
It does. Well, actually, okay, let me talk about the mix for a second, because fun little tidbit with Avenged Sevenfold. Growing up, they were like huge fans of like Metallica and Pantera and stuff like that. So they always liked the sound of those like really beefy albums, right? So, they made Waking the Fallen. That was the first album they made with Sinister Gates, and it was a very complex album, but like it was still very beefy. But I'm going to be honest, I feel like the mix on Waking the Fallen is probably one of the worst things about that album. I don't think it holds up super great, even though the songwriting and the compositions are great. But when
What about the remasters?
they didn't change it on the remaster.
No, they didn't.
They didn't actually. M Shadows specifically said he doesn't like when artists do that. The remastered version wasn't. I don't even think it was technically a remaster. It was more like it was called Resurrected.
Anniversary.
Yeah, so they had like extra songs and live versions and stuff.
Okay.
But anyway, so when they started working on City of Evil, I think from a songwriting perspective, they were like, we got to go all out. And Lord, did they. That album is crazy.
A wild ride.
It is a wild ride. But the mix on that album, when they got it back, I want to say it was Andy Wallace, and they got the mix back, and City of Evil is like, it is probably one of the driest, like trebliest albums ever, period. The mix is so dry, it's crazy. And they said that when they got it back, they were like, what the fuck is this? Like, we wanted it to sound like Far Beyond Driven, like Pantera, like beefy Metallica Pantera. And that's when the mixer had to explain to them, well, do you want to hear all the parts that you wrote? Do you want to hear all these vocal harmonies and all of these, guitar leads and all these little layers that you guys threw in? Because they're all really good, but you can't hear them if the mix is too beefy and bassy. So just so you guys understand, a dry mix is one that doesn't have a lot of reverb or bass. It's very like trebly. So, and I can show you the comparison here. So let's listen to this. I hear how full that sounds, and now listen to something like this. Hear how the bass is almost completely gone. Let's play like this. Hear how full and in your face that is, versus, let's play one more just for shits. There's like no bass. So that was the thing. They were like, oh, so if we want to have songs that have a beefier sound and more bass and more fullness, we actually have to simplify the compositions a little bit. And so this album in particular, they really wanted to hone in on that style. So the reason why I'm talking about all of this is that this album is extremely bass heavy. It is super bass heavy, and it would not be possible without our man, Johnny Christ. So, yeah. So yeah, fun little tidbit, but shout out to good old JC. Cool. Oh, also Johnny Christ is playing that bass riff, that guitar riff on bass. And that's just crazy. So that's super impressive because it's hard enough on guitar. Cool. I think that's it. I think we're good to move on to the pre-chorus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Last little tidbit really is that this is again one of those things where it's like, they didn't have to do this, but they did, and it's really nice. They throw in just like one extra little thing here at the end of the verse. It goes dun 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 dun. So the main riff is like, here. Dun, 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 dun.
I see a
So they, that's just a little thing that they decided to add in there. It's just a random, like, I think it's 2 beats because that's that half note
Mhm.
triplet. And again, it's those little things like that that make the song flow better, but that they didn't have to do, and that I don't think most normal songwriters or like average songwriters would think to do. So props to them for doing it. Okay, so then we get into this pre-chorus, which funnily enough is all bass. It's all bass and vocals.
I see a distant light. My girl, this can't be right.
So yeah. These pre-choruses. So let me phrase it like this. There are 3 pre-chorus sections in this song, and that's insane. And they're all very different, and they flow perfectly together, and they build the tension more and more and more, and then they, all the way up to the chorus. And I think that sometimes in this song, because of how crazy like the solo is and the verse is so wacky and the chorus is, as beautiful as it is, I think sometimes these pre-choruses get overlooked. So I actually want to talk about these pre-choruses because this is the sign of actual musicianship here. Like they didn't need to do all of this, but they had a vision of how the song would flow and how it would move from like all the way up to the chorus. So yeah, I want to just take a little bit of time to show some appreciation for these pre-choruses. Do you have any thoughts on this one here?
I'm just reading through really quickly. No, I mean, I would say I guess you're probably correct, and they get well. I mean, I like them.
So
I just like the whole song.
well, so I think that's one of the things that I want to like bring up about it is that these pre-choruses are all very unique, and I'll talk about the drums in a second because the drums I think are what make it. But the pre-choruses are all very unique from each other, but they flow seamlessly together, and they just seem to fit perfectly within the song. And I don't like that is so difficult to do. And so when we're talking about like the most impressive aspects of this song, I don't think that people typically talk about the pre-choruses, but they are some of the most impressive parts to me. They're very fast. Each section, each pre-chorus is like 10 seconds, if even that, maybe like 7 or 8 seconds. And you just have to think like, all right, you're sitting down to write your song. Most artists, like think back to the Katy Perry song that we did, Women's World, where the pre-chorus, all they did was add a little bit of synth and she just changed the way that she sang. That's it. And they did that for like 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and then they go into the chorus. And that's cool. Put a stamp on it. It's done. Avenged Sevenfold wrote 3 completely unique sections, and all of them have different drum beats as well. So I like completely different drum beats, completely different guitar parts, completely different singing styles on all 3 of them, made each of them like 8 seconds, have them flow perfectly together. And then we get into our chorus. It's monumentally, and they made it sound seamless. Like you wouldn't even really pick up on like, oh, that's pre-chorus 1A, that's pre-chorus 1B, So that's just from a songwriting perspective, it's just extremely impressive. So let's listen to this one because this first pre-chorus. Okay, so let's start with the first pre-chorus here. We're coming out of this very full, very wacky, polyrhythmic verse section, right? The first thing we do is we simplify the drums. We take out all the guitars and just have a bass line going. And then we actually have the vocals singing. It's a single vocal take, unlike the doubled vocals in the verse. And it's kind of more heartfelt. So we actually open the song up a little bit for these heartfelt lyrics about like, I see a distant light. So here, let's just hear that shift from like crazy and heavy into like a little bit more open.
I see a distant light.
So we've got, we leave lots of room for him to actually say something heartfelt and meaningful, and to really just give a great vocal performance. The only guitar that happens, this is another kind of interesting thing, is that there's just this one guitar track in the right ear that just goes like na na na. But the rest is kind of open. What was the drums doing here again?
This can't be right.
So we so we go into this punk, which again, it's like, I feel like I could just talk about this song forever. I really do. Like, okay,
Well, you got me for about 2 more hours.
Right. I'll try to keep it like, it's just so cool because we go from this 4 on the floor drum beat with all this crazy fast guitar playing and this weird vocal stuff. And then they think, okay, let's open the song up so that, like we're coming out of that. Let's open it up, take away the guitars, make it just bass, make it a single vocal track, and make him say something like, I see a distant light. So it's kind of meaningful, but then the drummer is doing a punk beat. It's like just these weird juxtapositions between like one instrument's going crazy while another instrument is kind of taking a chill pill. And then another instrument will go crazy and this other instrument will take a chill pill. Or the vocals are going to go faster and then the other instruments will slow down. It's like all of these little differences, an interplay between the different instruments, which is just so cool. And there's so much going on. There's just so much to talk about. So yeah, anyway, let's listen to the rest of this here. So then we get into this second pre-chorus here. And so first off, we get into this drum beat. So the guitars actually come in there and they play a really heavy riff that's like, and they open it up, and then the drums go back to that kick thing, or to the punk beat that they were doing, and then the vocals kind of start to pick up and change their melody as well, because we're about to go into the third pre-chorus section here in a second. But yeah, he says, such a surreal place to see. So how did this come to be? Arrived too early. So again, we're continually building. So we start by opening everything up after the verse. We have everything come back in and start to build it back up. Those drums, man. And then we get into this section here, which is the third pre-chorus section, where they are playing like, how can I describe this? Like, the guitars and the drums are syncopated, and the drums are hitting snare notes along with all of the kind of palm muted guitar notes. So it's going like dun 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 dun. So check it out. And then but right there during the second half, the drums start doing the drums start playing consistently while the guitars still keep the rhythm. So the guitars are still going to go dun 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 dun, but the drums start going to lead into the chorus. Check it out. And then we end up in the chorus. And all of that just flies by. Like all of that. And it's just seamless. And so it's this seamless buildup into a musical buildup into the chorus, but it's all very tense. It's very intense. It's very crazy, and there's a lot going on, but it's very much controlled and orchestrated so that when we get into the chorus is extremely simple musically. It's very open and pleasant, and it's almost like thematically speaking, it's like you're in heaven. Like it feels like you get into heaven after going through this crazy journey. So yeah, I know I'm like gushing over these pre-chorus sections, but they're so cool. There's just so much there. Let's listen to the transition from the first pre-chorus into the second one again. I think I glossed over that. So it's empty, and then guitars come in. Yeah. Crazy. So yeah, and the singer, he goes from this like, you know, a little more heartfelt, I see a distant light, but girl, this can't be right. And again, that's tense because he's saying something's wrong. Like he sees the light, he's in the afterlife, but it's not right. So then he says, such a surreal place to see, but so how did this come to be? And then we really get, I think thematically, this is where we get like the conflict of the song. So we've set up like what's happened. He's in the afterlife. But here we set up the conflict of the song, which is he's arrived in heaven too early. And he literally says it like, arrived too early. Here. And then we continue. So I'm going to talk about the lyrics for a second. And when I think of all the places I just don't belong, I've come to grips with life and realize this is going too far. So essentially, he has realized he's in heaven. He's like, this is such a surreal place to be, to see. How did this come to be? I've arrived too early. And then he starts to reflect on it, and he's like, you know, when I think of all the places I don't belong, you know, I realize that this is going too far. Like I shouldn't be here. So story-wise, we're setting ourselves up perfectly for the chorus. Musically, we're building into the chorus. Yeah. Thematically, we're there's a lot happening. So, man, this song gets me so hyped. But I think the main thing, I'm gonna try not to gush too much over it, but like the main thing about these pre-choruses is that they're very well made. They flow together very well. The drums, and I think a lot of that is due to the drums playing seamlessly. The Rev was honestly one of the best drummers ever, and he wrote a lot of this song too. So he obviously had this vision of how this would flow and how it would build and build and build until we finally reach the chorus. And all of the other instruments and the lyrics and everything else works in tandem with the drums and as a whole unit to get us to the chorus. So there we go. That was a big old rant about these pre-choruses. I probably could talk more, but I'm not going to. I'm going to take some tea though. Do you have any thoughts on any of the stuff I just covered?
I mean, I think you covered it pretty well, sir.
I try. I do my best.
She said as she walked away.
Tried not to lose you. Two vibrant hearts could change. Man.
The Avenged Sevenfold references can we get in the Avenged Sevenfold song?
All of them.
Or episode.
We're going to get all of them. Okay. So yeah, story-wise, he has realized that he is in heaven, but he shouldn't be there. He's arrived too early. So yeah, let's get into the chorus. Here we go. So yeah. What do you think of this chorus, Aubrey? What do you think?
I think the choruses are the best parts of the song, aside from the solo. The chori. What's the plural of chorus?
Choruses.
Yeah, choruses. um, which I guess that's I don't know if I feel like this is the part that everybody knows of the song. Like if my dad probably hasn't listened to the song in a very long time since, I had the aux cord.
Mhm.
But if I put it back on, this is what he would know, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess that's probably the point of a chorus in pretty much most songs.
Yeah. The
Uh,
chorus is meant to be like the singable part. Like the chorus describes the conflict and like the point of the song, really.
yeah. I think this is like the first kind of like normal part of the song, which makes sense.
Hmm.
Um, not awkward, paints its picture, does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. This yeah, this chorus is really something as well. Um because it's so like musically it is wildly simple. It's the chord. I think the chords, like the guitar chords, are literally just da na 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 na. Like there isn't even like a rhythm to them. It's just da na na. The drums, well, actually, I'm going to talk about the drums in a second. Um, so I think after all the craziness in the first half of this song or the first sections of this song, right? When you think about, we're at a minute and a half now when we get to the chorus. So much has happened. We've had strings, we've had dual harmonies, we've had, sweet ass bass line, we've had this crazy verse, these, extremely fast moving, intense pre-choruses. It's all been building to this moment. And I kind of love that you said that this is your favorite part because, again, that's like such a testament to this song that they can do all of these amazing impressive things in these other sections, but it's all building to this moment, which is the chorus is the main part, and they nailed it. I mean, they really nailed it. um this chorus is heartfelt, it's touching, it's something that, you know it's a very interesting story because none of us have died and then like I think the implication is that he's there with like his loved one or like his wife or something like that. um and he's telling her like I want to come back and I want to be with you but I've got to go back, right? And I think there's just something very touching about that we can relate to, like I don't belong here, we got to move on, dear, and escape from this afterlife, cuz this time I'm right to move on and on far away from here. Like, so none of us have literally ever done that, but I think that the feeling of that, of like I want to stay here but I can't, I've got to go, that's something that we can all relate to. Um, and so yeah, it's just a very like it's very touching, and the melody is great. Na 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 na. It's a very pleasing melody to the ear. There's background vocal harmonies as well, which sound very nice, very pleasant. Um, I mean this part sounds like you're in heaven, like the afterlife, whatever you believe in, but like it sounds like that. It sounds like a place that you want to be. And funnily enough, I feel like when they play this song live, this is one of those songs that is like it's like one of the most unifying songs of the night. Like everyone is just belting it
Yeah.
out.
This is the song this is the song that people who haven't heard a single other song or album by Avenged Sevenfold, this is the song that they're going to see.
Yes.
This is the song where everybody's like, "Oh, this is my moment I've been waiting for."
Yeah. Like this song is it's just such a like yeah, like I don't know what else to really say about it other than this moment is just such a like big moment in the song. As an Avenged Sevenfold fan, I think there's so much artistic quality to it. Um it's just great. I think one of the things I could talk about is I think the rhyme scheme in this chorus is kind of weird. Um, it's like AAB CCD. It's like, I don't belong here. We got to move on, dear. Escape from this afterlife. Because this time well, even then, it's like, escape from this afterlife. Because this time I'm right to move on and on, far away from here. Maybe, okay, actually, no, it's AABBA. That's the rhyme scheme. I don't belong here. We got to move on, dear. Escape from this afterlife. Because this time I'm right to move on and on, far away from here. That's kind of crazy. um yeah. Anyway, there's not I don't know what else to really say about it, because it's an example of like very simple. Okay, I'll say this: it's major key. I can confirm that the main chord, the starting chord, is an F major, which is the relative major to D minor. The most of the song is in D minor, which is why it sounds aggressive, but they do switch to the major chords here. But even then, they're not playing crazy chords or unique chords. They're just playing regular major minor chords. Um, yeah, it's just an example of taking a very simple chord progression, very simple music, putting some background harmonies behind you, and just having a great melody, a great vocal performance, and great lyrics to create a part that is very touching and unifying. So let's listen to it. Let's listen to the whole thing. I don't care if we get copyright striked. So yeah, brilliant chorus. Love that chorus. Cool. So then we can, unless you got anything else on the chorus, I'm trying to think.
Nope.
Yeah, it's just a beautiful chorus. Cool. I'll have more to say about the chorus once we get to the second one, though. So then we get into the second verse. So here's another like fun thing with Avenged Sevenfold, is that they're very good about like, okay, we've done that section once before, we've done this before. How do we make it different? I think they've, well, I don't know. They'll vary, but in general, they'll find little things to do just to differentiate, blah blah blah, just to differentiate sections. So on this part, they have this cool little like bass synth swell. You know what I'm talking about, right? In the second verse,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Wow. Like, it's very subtle. Here, listen. Yeah, super cool. It's just subtle enough that it doesn't really interfere with the verse, but it's very audible, and it's just fun. It's a fun little thing to throw in there. I also
I
think
think it would probably be
what
very easy to overlook. I think it would be very easy to overlook.
mm, I would agree with you,
The, I
but
don't know that your average, like, I know that it's there, but now that you've specifically pointed it out to me, I'm like, oh, I've like heard that a bajillion times, but like never heard it.
yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's kind of the thing too. It's like I think songs like this, they're like paintings. They're like great paintings or great movies. There's these little things in there that you might not catch the first time, or even like the 50th or 100th time. But when they made it, they knew that they were putting it in there, and they wanted to differentiate this verse somehow. And even if the average listener might not hear it, it's like it's still there and it still adds to it. And kind of like you said, you might not consciously hear it and know what it is, but like you'll feel it. You'll feel that there's a change or that there's something different about this verse. You just can't quite put your finger on it, you know? Um but yeah, I it's funny because they've always been really good about that, just layering the hell out of their songs. Um it's actually very inspiring. It's very inspiring because so maybe let me back up just a little bit. One of the things that I like about this is that they didn't have to do it. And I like if we're talking about songwriting and what goes into good songwriting, it's like, okay, you find these opportunities to go a step further, to do something that people don't, to do more than you need to go above and beyond. You know, most artists wouldn't even dream of doing something like that, or like they're like, oh, we just play the second verse, of course, that's it, and they don't think like, well, hold on, the listener has already heard the first verse, so we'll have different lyrics in the second verse, but is there something that we can do musically to switch it up, or to add to it and to give it a different feeling or a different vibe? And it's like, yeah, many times, yes, you can do something. um we'll talk about that more during the chorus, but like, yeah, it's just those little things that you do to make the song different and unique and enjoyable all throughout 100% of the song, rather than like, oh, I'm going to turn my brain off during the second verse because I've already heard it. um but yeah, so then we get into the so we're in the second verse, we've got some new lyrics here. um these lyrics are kind of, I think that it's like, okay, I want to leave, but now he's talking about like, he's talking a little bit more about like the place that he's at. So a place of hope and no pain, perfect skies with no rain, can leave this place but refrain because we've been waiting for you. And then actually, is the second half of the verse the same as the first verse? Yeah, fallen into this place, just giving you a small taste of your afterlife here, so stay. You'll be back here soon anyway. So that's actually the same between the two verses. I don't know if I ever caught that like consciously. Lazy lyrics. I don't know. But yeah, so that's just the second verse. I don't think there's really anything more to talk about there that we haven't already talked about.
You a small taste of your afterlife here, so stay. You'll be back here soon anyway.
So then we get into this second pre-chorus, kind of riffing off what I was just saying. That here they have this, they've got this pre-chorus. We've already heard it. The lyrics are different. He says, "This peace on earth's not right. No pain or sign of time." But again, to differentiate, they throw in a background vocal, "With my back against the wall, I'm much too young to fall." They throw that kind of, in between the main vocal lines. So here, listen to that.
This peace on earth's not right. No pain or sign of time.
So yeah, I love those parts. I love hearing that live because I feel like everyone goes, "I'm much too young to fall." Yeah. You know what I always think
For
of?
me, it's still
What?
all about the Johnny Christ. For me, it's still all about the Johnny Christ bass.
Very true. I always think about the Live in the LBC video during that part. Because
Yeah.
I don't know why.
When I was in middle school, I used to come home and watch that every single day after school.
Same. I obsessed over it because it was how I figured out how Sinister Gates played his parts. So I would like obsessively watch his hands and try to see which notes he's hitting and everything. That Live in the LBC, that was the greatest shit ever made. That was legendary. God, so many good memories from this specific era. It's funny because, well, it's not funny. This era was so like huge for Avenged Sevenfold, and we got so much, like we got to look at them so much. Like we got to peek behind the curtain with the making of videos and the live in the LBC, and then like the B-sides off of Diamonds in the Rough and all of that. And then Nightmare happened, and it was like well, first off, Nightmare is just a masterpiece of an album, but we really didn't get much of a look behind the scenes for that album, probably because they didn't want us to, because they were probably having, I mean, they've said it, they were having a miserable time in the studio. Um, for those of you who don't know, the Rev died, their drummer, the Rev, died in between this album, Afterlife, that Afterlife is on, and then Nightmare. So it's very interesting looking back on that, because I think after Nightmare and after the Rev died, they kind of closed up a little bit as a band, which is good for them. Like, I'm not saying that they need to be like showing us everything they do, and ultimately it's their music, it's their art, and it's about them. But I did enjoy the behind the scenes videos, the way we had them, and watching them in the studio and things like that.
I mean, I think part of it too is just like the I don't know that people really care like they did back in the day, Like,
Yeah, Twitter ruined everything.
I was gonna say, I feel like social media, Instagram and stuff I don't want to say it's filled that void. Um, but even like the breakdown videos Vince was doing years ago, right? Where they would just take a song and do a breakdown before the podcast, which
Hmm.
they still kind of do in the podcast, just not to the same degree. Like, I would love more of those as well, but I don't think that we're gonna get any just because the cost to make them is not really probably worth the benefit, or like from a financial perspective, because it's just not a whole lot of people I think are gonna watch them.
I think, yeah, I agree. I think Avenged Sevenfold has always been very passionate about like connecting with the fans and doing stuff for the fans. And they've tried to find ways to do that, like new, unique ways to do that over the course of their career. So yeah, they did do those breakdown videos, which were specifically, like two of them sitting in the studio going through a song. Um, and then they've done like, I know they did a few like making of videos for the stage, but they only did like two or three, I think. Um, so yeah, they've always enjoyed that side of it, but I think there was just something really special about this era, because this was like maybe right around when Facebook was kind of a thing, but not really. Like, it wasn't what it was now, or what it is now. So Facebook was more like a kind of like a message board between you and your friends. Like, sometimes I get memories of things that I said, or like conversations that Ivan and I had on Facebook. It's just
Yes.
oh my god, it was just a wild west on Facebook back then. But like, you know but in terms of like we didn't have celebrities on Facebook, and there was still kind of this celebrity mystique, especially with like bands and artists that we liked. um I do think that Avenged Sevenfold has done a pretty good job of keeping that mystique to a certain extent, at least when it comes to the art, which I appreciate from them. um but I this era was really, it was something special, because it was like all of like these video, like the LBC and the videos, like I don't think we had ever had that, or there wasn't another band that was really doing things like that. It felt very fresh and very modern and new. And it was valuable too. Like it felt, kind of to go off what you said, like it was worth going home and watching live in the LBC after school. Like, it was worth it. It didn't feel like I was just you were wasting time. So yeah, really, really cool, a cool time period. I'm feeling nostalgic now. The song makes me nostalgic. Anyway, where are we at? We were talking about, and my back's against the wall. Yeah, so I think these pre-choruses are pretty much the same after that. That's the only difference. But again, it's only like 10 seconds. Moves very quickly.
Please don't wanna stay. I feel wrong and
That's my sign. Made up my mind. Shadows with the delivery there. I wanted to talk about the lyrics real quick because, you know, I mentioned this in the second, when we were talking about the second verse of That Boy Is Mine, how she could have expounded on the conflict of like, how's she going to get this guy or whatever however you want to interpret it. And then she just randomly talked about like her girlfriends and stuff. And it's just kind of a waste of the conflict. This is a good example of the opposite, where it's like the first verse and the first pre-chorus are about him realizing that he's there and realizing like, oh, I think I'm here too early. Like, I don't think I belong here. And then this second verse, you know, or this second verse and pre-chorus combination, the verse talks about how beautiful this place is. It's a place of hope and no pain, perfect skies with no rain. Like it's just great. It's a wonderful place. But then this pre-chorus, you know, it's almost like, okay, I feel like I'm here too early, but this place is really wonderful. But the second pre-chorus is where he, you know, as you just said, I've made up my mind. Like, this peace on earth's not right, no pain or a sign of time. So out of place, don't want to stay. I feel wrong, and that's my sign. I've made up my mind. Give me your hand, but realize I just want to say goodbye. Please understand I have to leave and carry on my own life. And it's like, okay, if there was any doubt, like the second verse is maybe like the doubt coming in, like, wow, this place is amazing. You know, perfect skies with no rain. It's all wonderful. But in the pre-chorus is where he realizes like, no, I am definitively leaving. Like, I can't stay here. I have to get back to my life. Which again, you know, none of us have ever died and then negotiated with, you know, the people in the afterlife to come back, but we all have had that feeling of like, you know, it could be as simple as like just growing up and like your mom wants you to stay home and she doesn't want you to leave and go to college or whatever. And you're just like, I gotta go. Or it could be your girlfriend, or it could be anybody. I mean, I think it's something that anyone can relate to for a variety of reasons. This feeling of like, I don't want to leave. This place is great, but I have to leave. I've got things that I need to do, you know? Hell, I feel like that in the morning before I go to work. So we get into this second chorus, and now we get to what I was alluding to earlier, which is a new thing that I discovered. I have never noticed this before. Let's see. So, can you guess what it is, Aubrey? Can you guess what is unique there?
It's not the ahs in the background.
It is not. Technically, there's
Play it again.
here. Yeah. Can you guess?
Oh, well, I mean, there's a lot happening there.
Okay, so here's what it is. I'm gonna play the first chorus real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Just listen very closely to the first chorus. And now I'm gonna play the second chorus. Can you spot it? Dang.
I mean, I don't
It's
have
okay.
an issue with being wrong. Does it have to do with the drums?
It is the drums. It is
Aha!
Very nice. It is a different drum beat. I've never noticed it before. The chorus, the first and second choruses have different drum beats, like completely different. So the first chorus, the snare is on the 2. So it's do do pa do 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 pa do 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 pa. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4. The second chorus, the snare is on the 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, like do 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 pa do 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 pa do do do. I've never noticed that before. So here, take a listen again. Here's the first chorus. Sorry. And then we get the second chorus. I have never noticed that before. So a few things with that. So first off, it's not just that the snare is on the 3 in the second chorus, but he's also doing consistent kicks. Do, 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 ba, do, 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 ba. There's a few reasons why he does this. So first, it differentiates the choruses. So even though we've heard this chorus, the second chorus has that beat, like changing it so that the snare is on the 3 instead of being on the 2 and the 4, gives the chorus a very different sound and a very different like vibe. It's slower, it's more thoughtful. So it differentiates that first half of the chorus, right? So there's that. But the second reason they did this is because the second and third choruses are doubled. And so, as in like it's doubled and then they add more lyrics to continue the story in the second and third choruses. So he actually switches to the original beat where the snare is on the 2 and the 4 in the doubled part of the chorus. So here, listen. Just pausing for copyright. So now we get it. So this is, I love this, and I can't believe I've never consciously noticed it. So essentially what he's done here is he's created a differentiation between the first and the second choruses, at least for that first half. But by making the change in the first half, he can return back to that original beat in the second half, which makes it sound more upbeat. First off, it gives the second half of the chorus a different sound to it, but it also makes it sound more upbeat because the second half of the chorus lyrically is a little more upbeat and pleasant. And yeah, it's again, it's one of those things where it's like, man, I've listened to this song 1,000 times. I've never noticed that before. And it's just so cool. It's just like a testament to their songwriting ability that they would just throw that in there and make that change. And it flows perfectly, and so yeah, anyway, I don't know. What do you think of that? I'm gonna take some tea.
I mean, for me, usually, even today, I feel like I pay a lot more attention to drums than your average Joe, just because I played drums first,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a lot more fun to play air drums than it is air guitar.
Yeah.
But I'm actually kind of I don't know if I'm impressed that it took you that long, like you hadn't noticed it before, or like if I'm just kind of like, I mean, I felt like it was kind of obvious. Like I thought it was something else that I was
Man,
missing.
get out of here. Here's the
So
thing. I think
I was like, man, Cameron stumped. Like I gotta really like, what am I missing here? Where I'm like, oh, Cam, that's so obvious.
listen, I notice everything else. No, I think I've always noticed that the drum beat switches halfway through the chorus. I just,
Like I borderline felt like it was a trick question.
no. I think I've always felt like I've always known that the beat switches halfway through the chorus, but I never consciously recognized that the first half of the chorus, like that first half, was different between the first and second choruses on the drums. I never consciously put that together. In addition to that, though, actually, there is a guitar that comes in the second chorus that isn't there in the first chorus. It's like an octave guitar in the middle. Here, listen very closely for like, it's like, I think the notes are like na 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 na, something like that. Na, 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 na.
You never noticed that before either?
No, I did notice that. I'm just pointing it out.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I know everything on the guitar for this song. I know every aspect of the guitar for this song. I did not play drums. Actually, I did play drums for like 3 or 4 months in high school just so I could learn them, but I am not a drummer. So listen, I can play the solo, so okay. Cool. Yeah, so anyway, just to kind of get back to it. So interesting little thing there where they changed that drums. So artistically speaking, or like songwriting wise, it's actually a really creative way. Like if you're going to have a chorus and then double the chorus the second or third time, to take the drum beat that you play in the first chorus and add it to the doubled chorus, I think is an interesting way to make the first half different between the first and second choruses, and also add differentiation between the first half and second half on the second chorus. Hope that all makes sense. But yeah, so now let's talk about this doubled chorus though, because I think this is really like the first half is great, but I think this second half is really where like I don't know, the feels come in. Let's listen to this second half of the chorus. Yeah. One of the things I love about that is that when you have a song like this where you're telling this story and it's like I'm here, I am in heaven, but I don't, or afterlife, and I don't belong here. I've got to get back to my own life. I've got to get back to earth. There you can almost kind of get fooled and think like if you're not careful, it could just seem like, oh, I hate it here. I don't want to be here. But I really love that this second half of the chorus adds on there. It's like, I've got nothing against you, and surely I'll miss you, and this place full of peace and light, and I'd hope you might take me back inside when the time is right. And it's almost like this, you know, it expands on the conflict that he's having, which is one, he wants to go back, but he's not sure if he can. But then there's also, he wants to go back, but he's not sure if or he wants to go back, but there's a part of him that doesn't, there's something where like he likes this place. It's actually a good place to be, but it's not his time, or he feels as though it's not his time. So it's just a nice way to expand on that conflict and how it might feel. Because again, remember, like this is a story, right? This is just a story, but the theme, the idea of like moving on and moving forward with your life or going to a different place in your life, like that's the universal part. That's the artistic part where it's like where you can take that and it can apply to your life, and that's how you can actually connect to the song. And so a lot of times when you're in a situation like this where it's like, I want to stay, or like people are asking me to stay, but I have to move on. The truth is that it's like, God, I'm going to miss this place. Like when I think about like going to college for the first time, right? And it's like, I have to go to college. I have to move on with my life. I have to move forward. But man, I'm going to miss this place. I'm going to miss home. I'm going to miss being with my family, and I hope that like I can keep coming back to visit and things like that. And that's just one example of like this situation. Another one that comes to mind is like, my last job, the company got shut down. And it was really sad because I actually, I was really good friends with a lot of my coworkers and stuff. But I have no choice. I have to get a new job. I've got to have, we had a last day at work. We all went and got drinks. And it's like, I don't want to go, but I have to. And I'm going to miss you. And I'm going to miss the fun times that we've had and like working with y'all. But we've got to move on. So, yeah, I think I like that it's here because uh you can quickly fall into this like, oh well, let's just say he took a different route and he's like, oh, these angels won't let me leave, I've got to fight them to leave. It's like, well, now we're just kind of talking about like, now it's just a story, but this adds a very like real personal like internal element to it. Does that make sense? Like the difference between like an actual relatable feeling and like something that is applicable in the real world versus like some fictional story.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never thought of it like that personally, but I think your anecdotes that you're providing are appropriate.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's very touching. Yeah, it's just a very touching chorus. Also, they do add more guitar layers here. Uh, they're background layers though. They're just octaves that are emphasizing the chords. And then the background vocal harmonies as well change, and they become much more angelic. And honestly, they're some of the best that I think Avenged Sevenfold's ever done. And Avenged Sevenfold has some great background harmonies, but like they really set the tone. I think the first half of this chorus is the more aggressive, like, I don't belong here. I've got to move on. I've got to escape, but then this second half, it is the angelic heavenly part. And it's actually like, well, this place isn't bad. Like it's not a bad place to be, you know, but I do still have to move on. So let's listen for those vocal harmonies in the background. So yeah, it's like no, 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 something like that. So yeah, um, cool. So we reached the end of the second chorus. So if we're thinking about this in terms of like acts, right, like the act of a story, we have established the setting, we've established our character and the conflict that he's faced with. But we've also kind of expanded on the conflict a little bit in the second act, where it's now it's a personal thing, it's an internal thing as well. It's I'm gonna miss you, I'm gonna care about this place. He's no longer trying to like force his way out. He's actually pleading for them to let him go. Uh, can you still hear me? I'm getting like a issue with Google Drive.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
No, you're good.
Just want to make sure. So then that brings us into the bridge, which in most songs, as we've discussed on other songs, the bridge is typically like where it's the emotional climax. It's where we start to we're getting closer to the climax of the song now. So let's get into it. We have this brilliant string section here.
Take me back inside when the time is
So yeah, um, I think that's a really good spot for like an instrumental break like that. You know, we've had a lot of lyrics, a lot of vocals thrown at us. It gives us time to it gives the listener time to think about what's been said and the conflict at play, and what's going to happen. The strings kind of remain ambiguous. Uh, they're not necessarily happy, but they're not foreboding either. Um, they're building to the climax essentially. It's like, okay, we've got this conflict, but what's going to happen? They are also, I want to point out, they are what would it be called? Would this be an interpolation? It's an interpolation of the guitar harmony melody, the dual harmonies. Now, 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 now. I'm not sure
Can you
that.
interpolate yourself?
I don't know. Regardless, they're playing a similar. Maybe it's not interpolation. They're playing a similar motif, or they're playing a similar melody, because they're adjusting the melody with the chords that are being played, but it's not like. So it's not an exact replica, but it's pretty close, and it's the same like melodic motif. So yeah, I also want to point out this is again like a really awesome juxtaposition of having like these chugging rhythms that underneath these very elegant strings. You know, I think in the alternate version, we could play the alternate version. I'm sure
It's a lot. It's very string heavy.
I thought on the alternate version, that section doesn't have the strings.
I can't remember for sure.
Hold
But I
on.
mean, whip it out.
Yeah, I will whip it out. Yeah, see those strings in the chorus.
Yeah.
Yeah. See? Now it sounds empty. Hear how empty that sounds? And I think you're totally right. The strings in the chorus is too much. The chorus, the vocals in the chorus are so great. Like that's what we should be focused on, you know?
Yeah, it's like a borderline obnoxious.
Exactly. It's too much. It's distracting from the vocals. Yeah, they were smart to do it the way they did. But yeah, but then to also it's like, because I remember listening to an alternate version and just being like, I don't like this at all. Like the way they decided to do it was way better. And yeah, it's because in the sections where they don't need the strings, they put them, and then the section where they do need the strings, they pulled them out, and now it's just this sort of generic chugging section, you know. So yeah, I think they made the right call there.
How do you think that conversation went? Hear me out, guys. What if?
What if
we just took the strings
and moved them over
and
here?
totally removed them from this one part.
Well, didn't they bring in like a separate composer for this? Actually, didn't they bring in?
I don't know for sure.
I think they brought in like the Mr. Bungle composer for those strings, because he was the same guy that did the stuff in A Little Piece of Heaven as well.
I can't say with 100% certainty.
I can say with like 90% certainty it was the Mr. Bungle composer, because he came in and he did
That sounds like something that they would do.
Yeah, well, Mr. Bungle was like the Rev's favorite band. Sister Gates loved him as well. So yeah, they brought him in because there's that section of the making of video where where the composer guy is saying like, it's so great that they're willing to let other artists come in and work on their songs and just give us, freedom to do what we want to do on it and trust other musicians and stuff. There's, just this kind of complimentary rant towards the band. But yeah, so yeah, they had some other guy come in and compose strings and orchestral sections over. What he probably did was composed over the whole song, and then they just pick and choose what they want.
Yeah, that's what I would assume too, and what makes the most sense.
Yeah, but yeah, point being, I think they did they chose correctly by putting it here. It's a very, because not only is it just a really good sounding section, it's actually a very musically creative and unique section too, to get this type of like drum beat, because the drum beat is very powerful. It's like, very, very big, hard hitting drum beat. So Yeah, cool section. And like I said, story wise, it gives us time to think about the story and what's going to happen and where is the song going. There's been a lot of lyrics thrown at us, so we can take a break from the vocals and the lyrics before. And so we're building into the climax now. So let's get to this next vocal section. Before we jump into it, the main thing I want to point out is that the guitars open up. I think that's like the only big musical change, is that the guitars start playing long chords of what they were just chugging. And then the drums open up a little bit as well. I just want to make those notes real quick because I think those are the only musical notes. The strings are doing stuff too, but I want to focus on the vocals and the lyrics here. So let's
Yeah.
take a look. So yeah, again, like, so let's look at these, let's look at the vocals. Loved ones back home, loved ones back home, all crying because they're already missing me. Then he says, I pray by the grace of God that there's somebody listening. So again, he's explaining like why he's got to go back. Like, they're all like, my loved ones are crying, they're missing me. Please let me go. It's funny that and not funny, it's actually good. He mentions like, I pray by the grace of God that there's somebody listening. It's in the context of this song, that's actually like literal. It could be taken as like literal within this song. Like, he literally is like praying, like, please God, listen to me. I'm in the afterlife. Hear me out, you know? And then I also want to point out the strings do that awesome little like na 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 na. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a great example. They're playing underneath his vocals, but it's a good example of like, again, just keeping like every second interesting. And so he can have these like this very down to earth kind of low toned vocal take or like vocals with lots of space between the lines, because he says like, loved ones back home all crying because they're already missing me, and then we don't do anything for like a whole measure. And so that little na 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 just it's very simple, but it keeps the listener engaged. Na, 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 na. So yeah, it's very slow, but we're building. It's building consistently. And then we get into this next section, which is awesome. What did you think the first time you heard this next part with the Rev singing?
I mean,
Like, what?
he kills it.
I
I mean, I loved it. Like,
so
I
I
think it's
had
great. Imagine that. I can't imagine the song without it. If you are alluding to the fact that you were like, I didn't really care for it.
that is not what I'm alluding to.
Okay.
I had never heard something like this done, where you literally have just like two singers just singing over each other. I had never heard anything like this. It's so unique. It's so interesting. Yeah, let's listen. So you got the Rev singing in the right. Actually, it's funny because the Rev actually like builds up here like a few seconds before it starts. Listen to the right speaker. The Rev's in the right speaker. You hear that lead in?
I like that distorted meow growl thing.
Yeah, right. The Rev was always wild with those. Here, let's listen again. And just listen to the right speaker and how it builds in. So again, it's like, it's brilliant because M Shadows is singing these slower lines that have a lot of space in between them, right? But the Rev, when he comes in, he kind of sings he sings a little more sporadically while M Shadows is singing. Like he sings less
It's almost like
notes.
one-offs.
Yeah, it's like so what he's saying is, ooh, I am unbroken. I'm choking on this ecstasy, yeah. So that like little unbroken, I'm choking, like because of the way that he's singing it and how it's a little staccato, it's very like da da da. It doesn't interfere with what M Shadows is doing, where he's doing the more slower, somber, give me a chance to be. And then when M Shadows is done with his line and he says, person I wanna be, then the Rev belts out a little bit more like, I'm choking on this ecstasy, yeah. So they're singing completely different melodies in completely different ranges as well. The Rev is just belting here.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like they're clashing with each other. It's again very creative and very brilliant, and it's building that like thematic lyrical tension, like he's pleading, he's saying, I pray by the grace of God that there's somebody listening, give me a chance to be the person I want to be. But then at the same time, so like again, they can convey both emotions at the same time. Like he's pleading, but he's also becoming desperate, like I'm choking on this ecstasy, uh like let me leave this place. So yeah, let's listen to that just one more time real quick here. Broken, I'm choking on this ecstasy, yeah. So I'm gonna pause here. So let's go through these lyrics real quick because I do want to talk about this build up when it happens. So yeah, M Shadow says, "Oh Lord, I'll try so hard, but you gotta let go of me." And then the Rev sings in the right, "Unbreak me, unchain me. I need another chance to live." And that is so that is the lyrical climax of the song. That is the final lyric before the last chorus. Um God, it's so good. Let's listen. Let's listen. Man, that scream is nuts, bro. It is so nuts that he could hit notes like that back then. The Rev was so talented on every level. It's crazy. Um, yeah, wait, Aubrey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, Discord's screwing up.
That's okay.
Okay. Okay, yeah, it's still going. Cool. We're still recording, so it should be fine. Yeah, okay. Man, what do you think of that scream? What do you think of this? I mean, I know you were just saying you loved it, but
I mean, I think it's like lyrical climax is the great way to explain it. I almost want to say that like it's probably the climax of the whole song. And I know that like we're obviously about to talk about the solo, which
Mhm.
comes next, but like again, I don't know that
So the solo,
anyone was doing anything like that at that time. I don't know that anyone has really done anything similar
no,
since
no,
that
people
I know of.
try. Other artists have tried. I think Atreyu tried to do some
Um,
stuff like this, but
and then like until like they kind of do a similar thing in fiction, I feel like, but it's not
it's
quite the same.
yeah. So there's a few things on this. Like the guitar solo is typically like the emotional climax because you can't say lyrics with a guitar, unless you got a talk box, I guess. But like, you can't tell lyrics with a guitar. So the guitar is capturing, you know, the emotions and the feelings of the part, right? So this lyrical climax here, though, it is so powerful and it's built up to so well. And like we are at 4 minutes in the song. Like I think this is already longer than most of the songs we've covered, and we're just hitting the climax.
This
Yeah,
this might be the longest song we've covered. I
I'm,
think it actually is.
I think it is. I'm pretty sure. And so it's like there's so much build up here, and they've done everything else right in this song. Like everything has been done perfect. Like we've had these verses that are great and musically interesting. We've had these fast, intense pre-choruses that break into this heavenly chorus that's full of emotion and passion, and there's this interesting conflict of like, I've got to leave heaven. There's no like villain in this story necessarily. It's just it's a sad, or not a sad, but it's kind of a,
Melancholy.
yes, that's a good way. Yeah, it's a melancholy situation. It's, I've died and I'm in this perfect place, but I don't want to be here. I have things that I need to do back on earth, and I need to go back. You've got to let me go back. And that all builds to this moment where he says, like, I need another chance to live. Like that's what it is. And that's it. That's what this song is about. And you know, I know I've said it like 3 times, but I'm going to say it again. It's like none of us have been in this specific situation, but we all understand that feeling of like, man, I've got stuff that I need to do, or I need to do things. I need to go back. I need to, or I wish I could go back, or I've got to leave and go and continue on with my life. And that feeling of like, it's just such an interesting experience and an interesting feeling, and they convey it so well here in that desperation, and it all just builds. I also want to point out really quick um the layers here that are happening, because this bust, for spoiler alert, but this goes into the first guitar solo, right? And I want to point out all of the things that are happening as we go into it. So in the right ear, we have the Rev screaming like, I need another chance to live. In the middle, we've got M Shadows saying, oh Lord, I'll try so hard, but you got to let go of me. And then on the left, we have the strings playing. So from a mix perspective, we are also building, it's like full throttle. Listen to how you have strings on the left, the Rev screaming on the right, M Shadows in the middle, and then eventually the guitar solo in the middle. Here. Oh, sorry. It's like, so again, we're talking songwriting wise, we're building on all levels of the song. We're building everywhere in the stereo spectrum of the speakers, in unique ways, right? Like I think a lot of songs today, they just add in like a synth sweep, like a zoop or some stupid shit like that. And it's like you can accomplish that with a great vocal take, or with strings and stuff. You can build that tension and build up into a new section naturally with a great composition. So yeah, that is the big moment. He's pleading with God. He's pleading, let me go. You gotta let me go. I need another chance to live. Kind of to riff off what you said as well. I don't think anyone else has done anything like this. I really don't. This is a very unique section as well. And yeah, I can't think of anyone else who does this type of stuff where it's like these multiple voices singing. Maybe, you know what? Honestly, maybe like Kanye. Maybe Kanye's done some stuff like this. But Whatever. That's besides the point. Anyway, let's get into this guitar solo. Punk beat. So yeah, that's the section that was missing from the music video that I was trying to learn. And I was like, what is this? I'm not hearing this in the song. And then when I heard it, because when you hear the main solo, it's just nuts. And then to find out, oh my God, there's this too. Like the solos.
I was gonna say it's almost like for me this is like the pre. I know you have it listed as solo one, but this is like the tutorial or the trial period of the solo,
This is
and then you paid for the
yeah.
because you could literally, which I did not know that the music video had one of them cut out.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was the note that I had to discuss here was like you could just have the first solo. Like Sinister Gates didn't need to melt everybody's face with the second solo.
No.
He just chose to.
Like this solo here was, it's amazing. Just this one that we heard, it's so, I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it was just like you know it, the
You
song would be fine with just this, and then he's like, nah, but wait, there's more.
wait. Like this right here, which honestly, that little thing, that's this intro solo or this first solo, it's like better than most solos that any guitarist has written ever. And it's like the appetizer. Like it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's a very cool little solo. This first one here. Here. Man, just that little, just he's going nuts.
This is something that you can better comment on than me, but I would say that um in my brain, this little first solo section is probably more technically difficult than what follows.
It is not.
Okay.
It is not. So this solo involves a motif where you go dun, 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 and then he just plays that 3 times but ends on different notes. So it's the same thing 3 times, he just ends on different notes each time. Let me hear. So that right there, once you get that main like dun, 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 and that actually isn't that difficult. It really, if okay, I understand it might be weird for me to say that. Like in the grand scheme of shredding sections, it's not the most difficult thing in the world.
I think like my perspective is that like what comes next, like yes, there's sweeping, but a lot of it I think is single string just playing stupid fast.
Kind of. We'll talk about that when we get there. But I can definitely guarantee to you that this part is easier. The main reason why this part is easier is that he keeps a similar. So first off, it's almost all legato, other than the dun, 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 like those first few notes of the motif. It's almost all legato, meaning like he's not really picking any of it. In fact, when he plays it live, he moves his hand up to the neck of the guitar, like
Yeah,
the
to mute
headstock, to
strings.
mute the strings, and then he just has his left
Yeah.
hand doing everything. So, and then when he's doing it with his left hand, he's actually keeping a very similar finger shape. Like he's only using his pointer, middle, and pinky finger, and he's doing shape like a similar like imagine pointer, middle, pinky, and then pulling off to middle pointer finger again. So like those 3 fingers going back and forth. He's doing that shape over and over again, just in different spots on the neck and on different strings. So and it's all legato as well. So it sounds way more difficult than it
Intricate.
actually is. Yeah. Um, whereas the main solo, there's a there's a lot going on there. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But yeah, this isn't quite as hard as it sounds. It's not easy, and it's especially not easy to do right. Like I think one of the most difficult things to do on this solo is to play that motif and like the and when he hits those high notes there, to hit that high note confidently and make it
Cleanly.
sound and cleanly and make it sound good and vibrato it and all of that. That's tough because you have to go from playing lightning fast to like hitting this note perfectly and making it sound really good. So like listen real quick. Right there. And you can hear his vibrato, so it's very clean. It sounds great. Like he's playing this very well. And then you have this section here, which really just involves a few slides and then that finger shape pattern. I'm going to play it right now. So yeah, it's a lot of sliding and a lot of like legato. For those of you who don't know, legato means that he's not picking the notes with his right hand. So he's just playing with his left hand without strumming the guitar. So yeah, and then we've got the drums busting into that punk beat again, which perfectly leads us into the dual harmony section as well. So yeah, before we get out of that, did you have any other comments on that solo though?
Ah.
What? Aubrey?
Hello? Oh,
Hey.
that was weird.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
But no, I mean, it's just
It's crazy.
no, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it
And
is
like I said, this was the guitar solo that was like, I gotta learn to do that.
right. Yeah, I remember I was trying to learn this. I was looking at the notes on the tab and I was like, where is this? I'm not hearing this in the song. And then, because I just wanted to learn the main solo. And then turns out, oh my God, there's 2 shredding solos. What the like, why? Cool. So then they do something kind of interesting here that I don't think they've ever done on any other song. They just throw the dual harmony section from the intro, like in the middle of the solo. So kind of weird, kind of an interesting move. But nice. I kind of hate it when a song has like a section at the beginning and then they just never go back to it or it's never used again anywhere else in the song. It's like, okay, it's cool, but like, a song should be similar to like that thing, I think it was a quote from some famous playwright or something where he said, if the script mentions that there's a gun on the mantelpiece in the first act, the gun needs to be fired in the third act or by the third act. You ever heard that?
Mhm.
So it's
No.
like, it's a quote about basically like, don't talk about something. Like, don't waste the viewer's time with something like a gun on the mantelpiece if you're not going to shoot the gun, And so
Yeah.
the musical interpretation is like, look, if you're going to do all of this crazy, stuff at the beginning of the song, don't just leave it at the beginning, or if you're going to create a melody or create a motif or something, use it throughout the song. You wrote it, and so they did it with the strings in that little musical bridge, and then they do it here, and I think it's just kind of cool. It makes the song feel very complete and very like top down composed. So yeah, I like that. But I did want to point out one quick little like random thing about the mix here in these dual harmonies. They're in the middle. Both of them are in the center of the mix. If you compare them to the dual harmonies at the beginning are like in the left and right speakers. So here, hold on, listen to it here. You'll hear them both in the middle. And now compare it to this. You hear that? Do you, do you know what
Yeah.
I mean when I'm talking about like the mix and the speakers and stuff?
Yes.
Okay, great. I
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
making sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are all things I've noticed.
I, okay.
Bajillion times ago.
You noticed that the harmonies were in the middle and not on the left and right?
Yeah.
Man. All right, fine. Well, to be fair, I noticed it
Must be a
too.
drummer thing.
Must be a drummer thing, like. No, it's
Ugh.
just
I'm gonna
an
hang on to that one for a while, just so you know. I can't believe you never noticed that before. I really can't.
again, it's like I knew that the drums changed in the middle of the verse of the second verse when the second half starts, but I just never I didn't consciously realize that it was like the first half was different between the first and second choruses. I didn't realize that. Um that's fine. Because I can play the solo that we're about to hear, so I'm fine. Okay. Anyway, that was just an interesting little tidbit. They mixed the solo a little bit differently. They have the dual harmonies in the middle of the speakers. So now let's get into. I mean, I probably one of Avenged Sevenfold's most iconic solos. Probably one of the coolest solos ever written. Yeah, let's hear it. Definitely getting copyright strike, but I don't care. That is so nuts. And a million guitarists cried out in anguish because they knew they'd never be able to play it.
This is more than a million.
A couple million guitarists. Man, that solo. I mean, I think it's safe to say that back in 2008, 2000 or 2007, 2008, whenever this song came out, uh, that was the solo. That was the one.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like, you think about like, in the late 70s, like Eruption was the solo. Maybe you get to like the 90s and like I don't know, some Metallica. There's some Metallica solo. Like the one solo was like the big solo. Um, in 2007, 2008, this was the solo. Like this was the one where it's like you tell your friends, "Oh, dude, I heard that guy can play the Afterlife solo." Like it was like that. I remember going to, it's funny. Another thing, I think this happened when we went to Emma Morris's house and you met your wife. Uh, I think that they asked me to play the Afterlife solo while I was there. Am I going crazy?
I don't remember that. I'm not saying it didn't happen.
I
Like
re-
the pizza that hit the floor.
Man, that didn't happen. Fake news. uh no, I remember though people saying like, "Wait, you can play the Afterlife solo?" Like I would go to someone's house or I'd talk with people and I tell them I play guitar and it was like, "Can you play? And what can you play?" And I'm like, "Well, I can play the Afterlife solo." And they're like, "No, you can't." I'm like, "Yeah, I can." And it was one of those like it was the solo. It was such a maybe I'll post it here, like the audio here, but when I was in like ninth grade or 10th grade, I posted a video of me playing this solo on Facebook and it's still up to this day.
I do remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still there. And honestly, I go back and listen to that and I played that shit clean as hell. It sounds great. I'll post the audio for it right here.
Okay.
So yeah, there it is. Man, this solo genuinely changed my life. It changed the whole way that I perceived the guitar. I had never heard anything like this. I mean, it sounds like fucking laser beams, dude. It's ridiculous. Um,
I think it's interesting that you describe it as laser beams. That's not how I would describe it, but
It's
I
specific.
also don't know how I would describe it. So
So it's specifically this section, like I believe it's like right here. Right here.
okay, I can kind of
So
I
that
can get behind what you're saying. Then yeah,
yeah, so that section in particular, that was the section that nobody seemed to be able to figure out. A lot of the tabs thought that he was tremolo picking the same note, like just hitting one note and then like tapping the 13th
yeah,
fret and the 15th
yeah.
fret. But every time I did that, I was like, that can't be right. It just doesn't sound right. But there was like no like the idea that he was actually playing different notes there and it was that fast that it just sounded that fluid and insane. It didn't like it didn't seem possible. Like it just didn't seem possible. Um but
Not
it
from this world.
yeah, like this I mean everything about the solo from the mix, the notes that are played, the way the notes are played, how it all sounds, it just didn't sound human. Um
Yeah, I mean that's one of those things of like no matter like it's like I mean a lot of Sinister Gates just Sinister Gates stuff in general is like even if I could reach like my whatever my max level of guitar playing is, I don't think I could play that.
mhm.
Like, no joke.
This
I don't think my max level is capped, and it is like I have not hit it, but
yeah.
it does not get Sinister Gates Afterlife solo. That is not my max. It's not my final evolution.
I you know what? I feel like this is one of those solos that's like you got to have that young fresh brain to connect the neurons on it. You know what I mean? Like you got to
I honestly think even if like even pack like peak guitar level max me 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I don't think I have like I don't think I'm physically capable of playing that quick.
man, I don't underestimate yourself, dog. You can do it.
Nah, I really don't think I could pull it off.
It's so let's talk about the difficulty of this solo. Um this solo is so it's a combination of a few very difficult guitar skills. The first one is just tremolo picking on the same string, um, and playing fast notes there. That's not super difficult, but what makes it difficult is that he goes from tremolo picking on the same string immediately into sweep picking. For those of you who don't know guitar wise, guitars have 6 strings, right? So imagine that you're just playing one string, but then suddenly you play on all the strings really, really fast. That's what you're hearing when you hear that. He's playing the one string really fast, and then he plays the lower strings. He goes down to the lower strings really, really fast. So here, let me play it and listen for that. Like, it sounds very high pitched and squealy, and then it goes very quickly like. Hear that? And he does that like 4 times in a row. Here it is again. So it's that combination of like, I think most guitarists at like an average level can play on one string really fast. They can tremolo pick and they can just move their fretting fingers fast enough to play lots of
Well,
notes.
okay, I wasn't saying I couldn't clean up bits and pieces of it. I'm just saying I couldn't play the whole thing.
No, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like most guitarists can do that, like one or the other, or like they can sweep or they can play one string really fast. But it's the combination of playing that one string really fast and then smoothly and purposefully going into the sweep picking part and then coming out of it. Because what that means is you have to be in control of the fast picking on the high string, and you have to be so in control of what you're doing with your picking hand that you can go from just playing on the one string fluidly into the sweep pick and then back into the high string and hitting that again, kind of like on the first solo, hitting that high note, that longer note, and making it sound good and fluid. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's the technical difficulty part, is that it's very, very fast and you have to be in complete control of what you're doing. Otherwise, it can very quickly sound like dog shit, quite frankly. Even the part where they're playing just the higher stuff on the one string, that's the easier part. Even that, it's like, if you're sloppy, it's not gonna really sound that great. And if you're sloppy, you're probably not going to be able to do the sweep picking part correctly. And I've seen a million covers of this song, and that's the first thing that I pick up on, is when I watch guitarists do the sweep picking, and or I hear them start to play it and I hear that the tremolo picking is sloppy on the one string. I'm almost always I mentally prepare for the sweep picking to be sloppy, and 99 times out of 100 it is. Because if they're sloppy on the one part, on the easier part, doing the sweep picking to the other strings, they're going to be sloppy there too. So it's a very controlled solo. It's very tough to pull off well. So yeah, but let's listen again here. So then that format, or that motif of playing the high notes and then going into the sweep and then going low and then back high and ending on like a long note. So that little motif, he does that 3 times, and then on the 4th time, and this is why you have to be controlled about it, because he actually builds the solo. He starts it off with like the easiest version of that motif, and then slowly builds it to be harder and harder as it goes on. So when you get to the 4th one, instead of ending on the high note, he actually does a really fast slide up to the highest note on the guitar, actually, and then comes back down and then does another sweep and then shreds into the next section. So I know that that's like a lot, but listen to this real quick. I think this should be the last part. So specifically listen for the slide up. That's really fast. Like, woo! It sounds kind of like that. Hear that? That woo! That, again, that's really, really, really hard to pull off if you are not in complete control of what you're doing. And then to do that little like woo, and then to continue to shred, because listen to after that, he's still hitting a shitload of notes. So, and then the truth is that he doesn't stop. There is like a little overdub here, so he must have done 2 separate takes and overdubbed them together. But I mean, he pulls it off live, so he can do it. But yeah, this next section here is what we were talking about with like the laser beams. Yeah, this is where he really like you have to do all of that crazy shredding, and then you slide up to that high note, you come back down, you keep playing the fast notes, and then you go into this laser beam section, and there is no stopping. This is constant shredding, and you have to be on point. Like, you have to know what you're doing here, and you have to have practiced it in order to play it well. And so another thing, that change, so the first part where it's like that's the same thing over and over again, but then there's that little bump up that he does here, right there. That is actually harder than the first part. So again, it's like, if you find that first part hard, like that, you're going to find the second part even harder. Because again, it builds. It's a similar technique that he's doing, but it's even harder. It would take too long for me to explain, but yeah. And then you have to effortlessly come out of that into more shredding, and then finally end on this high note. Right here. So yeah, the solo is ridiculous. It's an extremely difficult solo to pull off. Um, so yeah, uh, shout out to me. No, 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 I'm joking. Anyway, yeah, no, for real though. Shout out to Sinister Gates. Uh, I think something that I wanted to say on this real quick when it comes to like shredding solos, because in the grand scheme of shredding guitar parts and like skillful solos, this is not like the most difficult thing ever made. But one thing that Sinister Gates and Avenged Sevenfold as a band has always been really good about is like, if they're going to put shredding in there, it's going to be for a reason. It's not just going to be meaningless, meandering shred. And that's something that I don't think a lot of bands understand. Like, I can't tell you the number of like stupid Black Veil Bride songs I've heard where they just randomly start shredding for no reason. It's like, why'd you do that? Like, what are you capturing with that shred? It's like, well, I just want to shred. I just want to rock. It's like, okay, but that doesn't add anything to the song. Whereas here, as we've discussed when we were talking about the lyrical climax, there is a lot going on, like emotionally, thematically, lyrically, at this point in the song. We are at the climax. Is this guy going to be able to live again? What's going to happen to him? We don't know. And that's what this solo is meant to represent. Is that struggle to get back to life, to do what he needs to do. So it's not just that it is an amazing solo on a technical level, it fits perfectly with the emotions of the part. And I think that that's honestly way more important than the technical aspect. Um, it's funny, we look at something like Beast and the Harlot, right? Where like Sinister Gates is pretty public now about how he hates that solo. He doesn't think it fits the song, and he thinks it's kind of a nerdy, overly technical solo, right? But I've never heard him complain about this solo. Uh, and it's probably because he understands that it fits thematically with what's happening. So whereas Beast and the Harlot was sort of just this crazy solo just for the sake of being crazy and technical. So it's like there's something very valuable there about having like actual meaning and purpose behind the shredding as opposed to just shredding to shred. And that's one of the reasons why I have a hard time listening to a lot of other like shredding bands and things, is because they don't put it in with a purpose. So yeah. Whew. Did you have anything else on this solo though?
It's 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 just perfect.
Yeah, it really is. Would you say this is like the greatest Avenged Sevenfold solo? It's tough.
At the time, yes.
100% at the time.
Now, no. Um,
I feel like starting on the stage, Sinister Gates' solos just started to become way more impactful.
yeah. I would say I was gonna say I would think it still probably takes the cake for all the solos on Nightmare, but it's when you get to the stage where it's like, oh,
Yeah, I do think, because I think this solo is better than, I think about all the Nightmare
without
solos.
without putting a lot of thought into it, uh, I'm gonna have to go with Cosmic.
Yeah, yeah, I would probably agree with you. And that's another example of,
Without sitting down and, like, really thinking about it and looking at everything, but just off the top of my head, my gut goes Cosmic.
yeah, no, I would totally agree with you. I think that that is, again, it's a good example of like that solo has a lot of emotional weight to it. Um,
Yeah.
and
I
it,
think if
it
we're going from, like, a technical standpoint, which the Cosmic stuff's technical too, but I think a runner-up might be Nobody Solo.
yeah, no, nobody is insane as well. Nobody's, honestly, man, I tried to learn that. Well, first off, it's played on a 7 string, which is sort of a pain in the ass, but it is so tough.
Yeah.
It's one of those solos where, like, I don't know, I feel like kind of a bitch saying this, but it's so difficult. It would take me so long and so much practice to be able to play it. I just was like, I'm good. I'm good. I know I could do it, but I just have not. I don't feel like sitting around and spending the next like 3 months practicing it every day to be able to play it. It's so difficult. So I don't know. Maybe I should do it, but ugh, that is a daunting solo. So
Yeah.
but cool. Okay, so we're coming out of this solo now. One thing that I want to point out, and I kind of forgot to point this out, is that earlier, M Shadows does a scream here coming out of the solo, and it's, you know, again, it's thematically, it's like this scream of desperation. But funnily enough, a little fun thing about it, he's panning it from left to right and back and forth. Starts on the right, moves center to the left, back right, and back left again. They did a similar thing with I Need Another Chance to Live earlier. I just forgot to point it out here. Listen to it, you'll hear it pan from right to left. So yeah, just again, they didn't need to do that, but they did. It's cool. It gives this scream another, like, kind of this otherworldly sound. It's moving all around. Yeah, just a cool little thing that they decided to do on the mix end. So then we get into this bridge. So this final bridge, which leads back into the chorus, I'm gonna keep it a buck. I think this might be the most underwhelming part of the song. This thing here.
The bow, 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 bow.
No, just this here. Like, it's, yeah, like it's
Yeah, I was catching the tail end of it with my explanation. I mean, I can get behind that, but like, what else are you gonna do? Like, they're just letting the scream ring out. I feel like that's really what that's for, you know?
yeah, I think it's tough to follow that solo up too. I think it's like it works
Yeah, you
perfectly.
had to put an underwhelming part there because you don't want to ruin a good part.
I mean, well, where else do you go? How do you put something? How do you top that? Like, here, let's just lay down one of the best solos ever made, and then like, all right, we got to get back to the chorus somehow. So here's the thing: it does the job well. Like, it's a cool little bridge. Dun, 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 dun. It's fine. I don't have any complaints about it, but it's definitely this. It's definitely a bridge. We are just linking the solo back to the chorus. You know. Um, I will say, so I paused it before it started, but I think more important than the music, because here's what I'm saying is that the music is a little bland. You know, dun, 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 dun. That's fine. That's just whatever. But the real,
I think it needed to be bland. Like, people needed a moment to just, okay, no joke. This might sound funny, but I'm being sincere when I say this. Anything that comes after that solo, you have to digest that solo, especially if it's the first time you're hearing it.
I could see that. I actually could see that.
So like, no joke.
So
Like, you need a moment to take it in.
yeah, well, and especially with that scream too coming out of it, it's like,
Yeah.
whoo. So okay, I'll give you that then. So that part, the bridge part that I just played, I think works well as that like momentary break out of that solo. And then I think okay, so what really sets this bridge apart are these laughs though that are coming up right now. So yeah, I think that's what So okay, yeah, we're coming out of the solo. We get that little break with the scream going out, and then during the second half of this bridge, we get these laughs. I think that's where it's like, okay, this is cool. This is legit now. Because the laughs are kind of thematically interesting. Because they almost imply that the guy is not going to make it out. Like they're going to keep him there or something. You know, it's very sinister sounding. It's not. It doesn't sound good. Maybe it's not looking good
It's
for
very
him.
evil.
Evil, twirling mustache. So yeah, it's what's we've just the desperation and the emotions and everything have been covered in this solo. All that's left is to sort of figure out, well, what's going to happen, and that's when we get back to the chorus here. So we're coming out of this like evil sounding laughing section, which just is kind of wild. And we get this nice little transition, which actually ends on a major chord here. Yeah. I've always thought that section was interesting, with Sinister Gates doing that little like lead thing there,
The barrel, 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 barrel.
Uh yeah, that section in particular, but that that specifically that little like this right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I don't hear Sinister Gates do stuff like that very often, where it's just like a little jam in the middle of a section that's not like a solo or something.
I think it kind of goes back to that Hell's Bells palette cleanser we talked about that Angus did.
Oh yeah, that's
I think it kind of
that's
serves
a
the
good connection.
same purpose.
Yeah. I like that actually. And that makes a lot of sense because I think it does accomplish the same thing. It's like, we're coming out of this instrumental section back into the vocals. Yeah. Just a little palate cleanser, just like, okay, let's get out of here. And then we come back into this because it's not hard, that little might have even been Zachy that played it, honestly. Anyway, though, the point is that we come back into the chorus, and the chorus is very positive sounding. We actually have a different drum beat here as well. The kick is not consistent throughout the whole chorus, like it was on the second chorus. So instead of the do 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 ba do do do, it's a do do or a do do ba do do ba. Is that right? So yeah, I do think that the background harmonies are louder on this chorus, especially in the second half. Here, let's listen. They're either louder or there's another harmony added on top. But they definitely seem,
yeah,
they seem
they're more present.
Yeah, in fact, here, I mean, screw it, dude. We can compare on 240. They're definitely louder. So yeah, then I mean, we get to the chorus doesn't really change other than that. Lyrically, it's the same as the second chorus. So it ends, and I'd hoped you might take me back inside when the time is right. That's where he ends. Take me back inside when the time is right. they hold that note out for a good long time. So yeah, I think they leave it open ended on whether or not our character gets to go back, but I think it's kind of implied that he does, which is nice. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
We did it. We made it through Afterlife.
Bum, ba, bum, 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 bum.
Woo! What a song, man. What a song. Love this song. Um God, really just a banger. Um yeah, I'm not going to do my little outro thing. I think it was getting a little redundant and we've pretty much talked about it all, but I will say I think I will put this in here. The main theme of this is just living, taking advantage of your life, so you don't die with regrets. You might not want to move on and do things. You might want to stay in a safe place with people that you care about and all of that, but sometimes you gotta take that leap. You gotta get out there. So it's nice. But the truth is like, we talk about good works of art. There's lots of different ways you can interpret it. And I think there's a few ways you can interpret this song. Um, it's really just a great story and you can analyze it however you want. So it could be a song about regret. You weren't the person that you wanted to be, and then you died too early and you don't get to go back and make changes and fix it. It could be a sad song. Um, so yeah, lots of good stuff there. Whew. I don't know. You got any closing words for this one?
Go listen to Avenged Sevenfold, because if you didn't like Afterlife, there is an Avenged Sevenfold. There
Ooh,
is an Avenged Sevenfold song
for
out
you.
there for you.
Yeah, for real. Cool, man. Well, I think we did it. Nice. What a good song. Okay. Well, everybody, I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I definitely did. I think this is our longest episode. Big 3
Yeah,
hours. Shoo!
the longest song too, which honestly I'm kind of impressed that we didn't take longer for how long the song is.
I think we started it way sooner than we normally do. We started at like 26 minutes, but usually we
I was gonna say usually we dick around for a little too long.
yeah. But I think we both knew, like, all right, we're
I
gonna
think we knew we had a mission.
we got a mission. But the truth is that I like talking about this song. I love this
Oh
song.
yeah.
I wanted to get in. I was like, all right, let's, what I don't want to talk about fucking Post Malone. Like I want to talk about Avenged Sevenfold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, really, we could even talk about more. Like, I'm not saying we scraped the surface, but I feel like we are like, if this is a 7-layer bean dip, we're like talking about layers 4.
Yeah. No, I mean we didn't. Here's the thing, we didn't even talk about like the key. Like for example, I have a note here that during the bridge, when we go into the bridge after the second chorus, there's actually a key change from D minor to G minor. We just didn't even. I just forgot to mention that. But yeah, they did a seamless key change there. They actually do a lot of little seamless key changes throughout the song, switching naturally between D minor and G minor. It's pretty impressive. There's all sorts of theoretical things we didn't talk about. We talked about a lot of the drums in like the pre-choruses and stuff, but we didn't talk about any fills really. There's tons of them, tons of great fills, uh, vocal harmonies and layering. We didn't break down the melodies as well as we probably could have. There's so much in this song to go into. It really is I think it's a very special song. It's a very uh, brilliantly made artistic piece of music. So great story. Again, the themes are very interesting. This idea that you could die without doing all the things that you wanted to do. Um, it can tie in with this idea that you've got to leave your safety net. You got to go out into the world sometimes, even if you don't want to. So there's themes of like getting out there, or regret, or I don't know, like the loss. It could deal with loss as well, like the feeling of letting go of a loved one. I know, like in the music video, there's a lot of allusions to that, like with Zachy Vengeance dancing with his girlfriend or whatever. So yeah, lot of great stuff here. Really an amazing song. So cool. But I hope you all enjoyed it. Check us out all on our socials, on YouTube, on Spotify. We're just at Simple Songwriting. Man, what a good song. Do you have any idea where we'd go after this?
I have no idea.
I have no idea either. But we will figure it out. I think we can call it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's a conversation post episode.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. Are you ready? Ready for it?
I am ready.
All right, here we go. Let's do it. Peace out, everybody. Wale.
Wale.